We are set. It is time. Well, I mean, technically it's 4 minutes before time, but hey, I wasn't late this time, so we're good. Alright. I'm gonna set my everything to be a little higher, and we're good. Oh, hello. I don't know if I'm going to be joined by Aiden tonight, but I do know that I will not be joined by Boo tonight, unfortunately. So for now, it is just you, and me. I say two, at least, because there might be somebody right behind you right now. Who knows? But yes. Good evening. Good evening. All right. Here we are. Good. If they're behind me, I feel sorry for them. Is there a wall behind you? Just a straight up wall? Because then, they'd be inside of the wall. Alright. So, I think while I'm, sitting here shooting the shit for a little while, that I am going to heat up some water so I can, have some tea. It has been a minute. Just if he'll look at me. No. Don't be mean to yourself. There's nobody behind me, but there are two people right inside me. Here we are. Hello. Hello. Hello, all of you. Good to see you. Hello, Timothy. Well, I hope that everybody had a good week between last week and this week. Whoops. I'm accidentally putting messages in the group chat by accident. Didn't need to do that. Alright. But yes, so tonight, first off, let me just say, hello, and welcome back to TableTalk Discussion and Discourse. I, as always, am your host, Alejo, aka Grade95. And, tonight, we're going to be talking about, if you've read the title, which you probably have, removing hit points and attack rolls. I'm pretty sure I put that in the title. I hope so. Removing hit points and attack rolls, and also some of the rule changes for the handbook that's coming, the 2024 Player's Handbook. We will see what is to be said about all of these things tonight. Also, if you ever want to experience true terror, have a stream open in 3 tabs at the same time when it starts. Oh god. I mean, I usually have it open twice sometimes. 3 times if... Actually, yes, I do sometimes for the editing streams. Then I hear myself a couple of times by accident. But, it's weird. Replace them with what? I don't know, but my assumption is that we're just getting rid of them. In D&D, and not replacing them with anything. But I don't know. We will see this evening, hopefully. Just to reiterate once again, I do not know if Aiden will be joining us this evening, and Boo will not be joining us this evening. So, apologies again. Anyway, let's begin. So, this first video comes to us from Somebody that we covered before. This is the why you should remove hit points and attack rolls from your D&D campaign, House DM, from House DM. And there we go. And House DM was the one that we covered for. What was it? Why am I not on the screen? There we go. Hello. What was it that we covered from House DM? It was the other, like, homebrew thing that he was talking about. And I can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe it was... Nope, it's not coming into my head. So what I'm going to do is cheat and go into our videos and search in the descriptions, because then I can get all of the information. And if I hadn't said anything, you would never have known. It was running without plot, I think. That would make sense. Yeah, oh, no. It was why I stopped using spell slots by House DM. Okay, that's what it was. So, instead of using spell slots, I don't remember what it was that was proposed, but it was fine, as far as I remember. It was like a way to do it, but I do not entirely recall. So forgive me. Anyway, this time around we're removing hit points and attack rolls, and maybe we'll find out something that is beneficial for that. The only thing that I can think of at the moment is, yeah, I mean, if you want to have it be more narrative focused, less combat focused, taking away hit points and such is fine. But there's so many things to how D&D works. At least this is about 5e, I assume. And the way that 5e works is that it has the whole combat system, right? Where a lot of these spells and such rely on hit point values. If we were to go like, oh, instead of doing hit point values, we do like wounds of some sort. This might have been a good accompaniment with the alternative health thing, potentially. I don't know. But I guess we'll see. Because that's the only other thing that I can think of like, oh, you get hit by a lot, you take a wound of some sort, you know? Because you still need to track damage in some way in order to have it so that your combats will still work for some of these spells and such. But I don't know. Let's see. Something I've thought about is just rolling your hit die against a damage roll. If the damage roll exceeds the hit die, their character loses that hit die as damage until it's healed. Pretty deadly, though. True. As a noob, I need to ask, what is the problem with hit points and attack rolls? Nothing inherently. I'm assuming this is just another way to run D&D if you wish. But that's, you know, whether or not you want to. Again, it makes it less of a, or it might take away some of the combat-oriented stuff. I don't know. Problem is, it's extremely deadly at low level, but might slow way down at higher levels and isn't really built for spells. Yes, that is kind of the issue, because most spells can go above a D12. Yeah. Got it, that would suck. I don't know. This is the thing. I have no idea, so that's why I want to hear the arguments. Or the changes, right? Might work for a non-magic campaign, though. Could. It depends, right? It depends. Should we just give players Resident Evil health at this point? What's your health? Good question. The little, what is it? God, what is that called? Like the heartbeat sensor that changes colors? Yeah, I don't know. But, I mean, with that stuff, it's like, yeah, I took some damage, oh, and then you have to check, like, every 2 seconds, just to make sure if you actually took damage or not. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, let's begin.
have enough different voices to use. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to House.
Okay. What? Okay. That was the start of the video, I guess.
CM, thanks for dropping in. Today we're going to talk about hit points and why you might even want to consider removing them entirely from your game. Before we begin, let's get on the same page about how Dungeons & Dragons defines the concept of hit points. In 5e, hit points are defined as a combination of physical and mental durability.
I will always say, by the way, is that a little loud for everybody? Sorry. I will always say that if you're defining your terms before you put out any sort of argumentation, that is a good call. Doesn't matter if it's supposed to be, if it's not supposed to be an argumentative video or anything. It just helps for everybody to be on the same page. So if you don't take anything from what we've done so far, other than this, I hope it is at least this, that if you want somebody to understand what you're talking about, hopefully you have something that's colloquial enough that everybody knows what it is, and if not, you define what you're talking about. Because otherwise, people will say, I don't know what you mean! My apologies, I was looking away so that I could pour my hot boiling water and not get it on my leg. Anyway. I hope he has good replacements. I don't even know if he's going to replace it. Who knows? We shall see.
Will to live and luck. You might be wondering, hey Jake, why are you talking about this and why should I care? And to that I would say I went down quite the rabbit hole on tabletop RPG game theory. I read countless articles from the Gladystant by Questing Beast, a fascinating discussion on the Runehammer forums, and a brilliant blog post on Prismatic Wasteland. Links to all those things are in the thingy down below. What I learned is there are a ton of different ways to handle hit points in our hobby that I had never even heard of. I seem to have grown so comfortable with this sort of video game mindset that when you get hit, you take damage and, I don't know, lose blood or something until you've lost enough, life force and you run out and die. But when you're sitting at the table as the GM and you're describing to your players as getting hit, I always tend to default to explaining it in this fashion. The goblin hits you with their short sword, cutting into your armor and drawing blood. The direwolf chomps down on your armor with its bite, digging into your flesh. The fire giant brings their massive greatsword down upon you, but somehow you survive with 5 hit points. What's confusing to me is missing your target.
Well, so already we have something of, okay, you're describing it in a way that is purely about the loss of a bodily fluid, really. It seems, except for that one at the end where you're just getting crushed, but you manage to survive. Like, I get it. Again, we've talked about this before. Describing how hit points work is one of those things that everybody kind of tries to say, oh, it's as it's described in the thing, blah, 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 and luck. The luck part is the inherent thing that we don't need to describe necessarily, right? Because, at least to me, it feels like we don't need to always say, and luckily, right? Because you're always lucky when you don't just die, technically. So we can already kind of have that inherent, there is luck here, when we're losing health, right? So he wants more realism? I have no idea. We haven't gotten to the part where he's getting into what he's talking about yet. I just want to point this out beforehand of, like, describing things well is hard to do. I get that. Defaulting to losing blood and all of that stuff is not a problem, necessarily, right? But it just means that you need to make your scenes a bit more diverse in the amount of pain that you can do. And by that I mean, losing blood isn't necessarily the only thing that can be painful. And you can describe just pain in general to show damage, right? Because when I hit my hand somehow, say I get up too fast, I hit my hand on the wall as I'm getting up, ow, ooh, ouchie, right? I hit my hand pretty hard. I feel that pain. I didn't lose any blood necessarily, right? I didn't get cut up or anything. I just felt the pain of the action, right? So, something like saying, the hammer comes down, starting to crush your body as you feel it, like, hit your, hit your body, like, okay. For the, I guess it's the giant thing, like, the giant comes down with its hammer, you go, ooh. So, the giant swings down the hammer, and it collides with your body, and you feel it pushing your armor into your body. You can feel it starting to bruise, and the pain is racking throughout, and it hits you down with enough force to leave an indent into the ground slightly. And it brings it back up, but you still are sputtering and alive. Something like that shows strength, like damage, and all of that kind of stuff that you can utilize in saying that you've taken damage. And thus a big hit which you survive with 5 HP, right? Mechanically, it doesn't necessarily stop you from doing whatever the fuck you want to do. Because you can even say that the character gets up after being smushed down into the ground, staggering slightly. But it doesn't do anything mechanically to you in D&D because unless something gives you a condition, nothing really changes how combat works. HP represents how much blood is in you. Yeah, and as you gain levels, your body holds more extra blood. What made me think that was the fire giant sword attack thing. Like, he wants that to be a one-hit kill. Well, I mean, so that's the thing. It's not necessarily... Like, the enemies always want you to die if they are trying to kill you, right? That's never not the case. Okay? Unless there's a ploy in play where they're trying to weaken you so they can capture you or something. It depends on the enemy, but if something really does want to kill you, they will try to kill you. So everything they're doing is with the intent to kill, obviously. You can, if you want to add that into the example that I just said, you say the armor dents and takes a majority of the hit, but you can still feel that pain as it dents into and kind of touches your body as it continues. You hear the crunching, right? But yeah, I don't know. If I had any real criticism of the D&D health system, it would be the lack of non-magical healing, but that's not going to fix his problem with hit points. Yes, I agree. Not the fire giant, the video dude. Oh, no, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. I think what he's trying to highlight is just how somebody, if they describe it that way, they don't seem to describe it well enough for you to understand that it is a big hit that could have killed you, but you survived, right? With 5 HP. He's given it the inflection of, and you still have 5 HP for some reason. And it's like, well, yeah, you didn't do enough damage to kill me. So, you're right. Anyway, I guess let's continue. Let him make his point.
Target's armor class is considered a miss. But if you hit your target and you don't reduce them to 0 hit points, narratively that's also kind of a miss. That got me thinking, why do we need both a roll to hit and a roll to the extent at which we hit?
What? Sorry, what? No, wait, hold on. What? Say again?
Drawing blood. The direwolf chomps down on your armor with its bite, digging into your flesh. The fire giant brings their massive greatsword down upon you, but somehow you survive with 5 hit points. What's confusing to me is missing your target's armor class is considered a miss. But if you hit your target and you don't reduce them to 0 hit points, narratively that's also kind of a miss.
No. Narratively, it is not necessarily a miss. Narratively, it is continuing to whittle down at your opponent until they eventually drop due to either wounds or being unable to continue fighting in some way, you know? this really just depends on how you describe things, really. So I don't understand how. Uh, and again, when you miss a DC, when you're going to hit somebody and you don't hit them on their DC, that doesn't necessarily count as you completely whiffing all the time. You narratively say, your sword bounces off their armor, not enough to do any visible damage or to break their stride in any way, but definitely you know, it bounces, right? You give some sort of indication that it didn't do something that does damage to the person, because the damage is what the part that actually matters in that instance, right? That's the narrative element that we can then start describing things that, you know, happen. What D&D does is it quantifies the amount of like damage that you can take before you die, quote unquote, or fall down into an unconscious state. But it doesn't necessarily say, oh, and because you've been hit so many times, your arm doesn't want to work anymore. Or, ooh, you've been sliced up in the leg so much that now you're limping, right? It doesn't give you those detriments because it's not going for that amount of realism, right? It would be interesting if we got that amount of realism, but it would also be a whole nother thing to add on to what D&D's combat system is, right? Nothing wrong with doing it on your own if you want to make it and do it, but it's something that isn't easily streamlined, is my point. But it's something that you could do, for sure. There is non-magical healing, it just takes days and days, which, to be fair, is a realistic amount of time for it to take. Thinking 3.5 again, it gets a lot faster than in 5e. Yes. Than that in 5e. Yes, exactly. The non-magical healing is just you go to sleep, right? Unless you use variant rules where you do have to take days. It really depends on how you want to play the game, right? But yeah, if there were other like in-game ways to do non-magical healing, it would be really interesting, right? See, I think it's about realism here. It might be. That's the thing. At the end of the day, we might just have it be more about realism and less about utilizing the numbers, which is a fine way to play. And there's nothing wrong with trying to make D&D more like that. But you have to change a lot about it, and I guess that's what we're going for here with taking away hit points and the attack rolls, right? If we're just going to narrate until it feels like it's fine for them to die, that's a way to do it, absolutely. There's nothing that says that you can't do it that way. It's just one of those things of, like, how long is long enough, right? When does it really feel like it's the final hit, you know? Because you don't want it to be too fast, and you don't want it to be too short. Sorry, you don't want it to be too short of a fight, and you don't want it to take too long to become a slog.
That got me thinking, why do we need both a roll to hit and a roll to the extent at which we hit? A great question that I'll propose a solution to later in this video. Going back to that fire giant example, that greatsword should have destroyed that character. However, since my character has 5 hit points left, they can still kind of run around and do whatever they would want. Functionally, they're the same as though they hadn't been hit by that attack. So if we
So again, I agree that is a strange thing to do. But if we want to do something that, you know, kind of takes more realism into account, then we can start adding in conditions and such, or we make it so the narratively it makes more sense that that they're surviving, right? Because at the end of the day, for D&D, for the way that it is, for the way that the system itself right now works, is that you can still describe everything with that little bit in your mind of buying into the fact that this is a fantasy world where we have characters that are a little bit more... It's unfortunate to utilize the word, but I will use it. A little more superhuman in a few ways. They are special in the sense that they can go out and do these kinds of things, and you kind of have to buy into the fact that they can take more damage in a way that other people, like Mr. Farmer down the road, can't. Like, you do have to kind of have that in the back of your mind. But again, if you don't want to do that either, in the sense of keeping that in the back of your mind, just describe it in a way that it makes it so that at least, like, they don't seem like they should just get killed immediately, right? I don't know. I'd also say you don't really have to describe the damage from every hit, just the ones that matter. Also true. Also true. You can absolutely do that. You can debuff their movement because they got hurt from the hit. That's the thing. If you want to do that, it really depends on the table, right? If the people at the table want that realism in the game, then there's nothing wrong with you going, okay, guys, while we do combat and stuff, if you take enough damage, I might give you a little bit of an effect. Some sort of condition that isn't necessarily one that's on the tables or anything like that, just because you're taking damage throughout the fight. And if everybody's cool with that, then you can continue on like that. But I don't think that there is a problem inherently with how D&D does it right now, because everybody kind of has that inherent buy-in that the damage isn't necessarily indicative of you're getting hurt all the time, or like, and losing blood all the time, or getting 1,000 cuts till you die kind of time. Like, it is just the way that we utilize it to show that we are overcoming this big fight. And whether or not it's described well, that's really up to how the dungeon master is doing their part in it, you know?
Narratively describe HP as fatigue or luck, then we say our character narrowly missed the attack by somehow diving out of the way. Well, if we do that, then we remove that description from the pool of possible narratives for explaining why that fire giant's greatsword ended up missing. I hope you can see how this can become a little tricky as a storyteller. Anyway, a user by the name of...
Also, it's not necessarily gone, it just means that you have to flavor it differently next time that you want to utilize something like that. You know? And again, this is another good point to what Shin said of, you don't have to describe the damage from every single hit, just the ones that really matter. If you want to make it so that these things are a little bit more impactful, just save it for the really big ones, you know? And that kind of changes as you continue to level up, when you have more and more hit points that you have to worry about, you know? Slash, it also depends on what class you are, because the max amount of hit points for every class is different. You know? Bloodhook the Orc can take a hit no problem. She's proper hard. Hell yeah.
Anthony C. and several others describe this in pretty solid detail on the Runehammer forums, and you can hop into the discussion there. As I read through all these ideas and articles, I immediately found myself wanting to test out all of these ideas. So with that, I began drafting my own house rules that was inspired by the two main solutions that were presented on that forum. Option 1 is to remove hit points, and option 2 is to remove armor class. Both of these ideas are quite radical. Can I say radical? Radical, dude. Radical. What am I doing? Oh my god.
Radical before utilizing it like that is actually the correct term. So yeah, okay. You can make the joke if you want, I guess.
To explore each in detail, share my opinions, and if you'll humor me, get your take on the matter in the comments down below. All right, so the first idea to explore is removing hit points. My only experience of playing a tabletop role-playing game without hit points is through Viking Death Squad, which you can learn a lot more about in this video right here. In Viking Death Squad, you technically get 1 hit point, but if you take damage without any armor on, then you're just dead. Having run my first session of Viking Death Squad, I actually really liked the idea of armor being like supremely important in combat. It felt simple, it flowed well, and it was really exciting to choose between which armors you were willing to lose just to stay alive. It also got me thinking, what would it be like to bring this sort of system into Dungeons and Dragons?
Radically different, I assume, just off the bat, because yeah, I like the idea of armor being more important, and it is in D&D, so that it raises your armor class in the sense that you don't get hit by as many things. If you want to take another home rule that we used to use a lot back in the day of when you exactly hit on the armor class, it actually only counts as half damage because when you hit the when you hit just on, you're just getting that hit, right? You're not overdoing it in the sense of like going in and actually overcoming the thing. You are just going to hit them and just able to get them. So it's only half damage. But again, it's a fine house rule if you want to utilize it for that kind of stuff. But also, I mean, it's not necessary. With spells in D&D, armor doesn't really matter half the time, you know? Fireball would just kill everybody. You have your reflex saves and everything, but it will just hurt you. So what are we going to do about that, I guess? Do we have to sacrifice armor pieces in order to do that? Like, I don't fault the system in any way that this came from. I guess I'll see how you utilize it, but that system works for that game, unfortunately. That's not something that can be easily ported over that I can think of, really, because again, somebody just gives you a big old shank, and you don't have any armor, you might just be gone. I mean, that's just true in general. I get that. At level 1, that just might happen anyway. But there is something to be said about how D&D kind of portrays each of these characters as a bit larger than life, in a way, in order to go on these grand quests and adventures. And we used to have it so it was a lot more realistic, but even so, they would still be able to take a couple of hits here and there. Whereas, again, Joe down the street, the peddler of shoes, would die pretty much if he got hit even a little bit, you know, half as hard. So I don't know. I'm not sure about this. Not every attack is going to be full force killing blow either, so the fire giant might be poking at you with the great sword because you're too dodgy to hit with a massive swing. True, very true. Tactics might be at play. Describing tactics would be good. What about weaker hits that won't kill you? Yep, exactly. There's also that. I don't know. I guess let's listen to what we've got here for the system.
Specifically 5th edition. And of course, what would it look like to remove damage and only calculate hits? Viking Death Squad gives each piece of armor 3 hits until it is completely destroyed. Since you can only have 4 pieces of armor equipped in Viking Death Squad, and they each can take 3 hits, that's technically 12 hits plus 1, so 13 hits you can take when you're fully armored. Perhaps to make this work in D&D, each character starts off with 5 hit points plus your constitution modifier. So a character with a plus 5 con score has a whopping 10 hits before they begin dying. So when an enemy rolls to hit and meets or beats your armor class, you just mark off 1 hit. And if an enemy scores a critical hit, then maybe you mark off 2 hits. This fundamentally changes combat.
Yes.
Now imagine this. You draw your longsword and face off against a bounty hunter who's been following you for the last 3 days. Ready for you? They strike. The bounty hunter lunges at you with their blade in hand, rolling an 18, beating your AC by 2. They hit and your HP drops from 5 to 4. They go in for a second attack and roll a natural 20, scoring 2 hits, bringing your remaining HP down to 2. If you take another 2 hits like that, you're done for. Your party's cleric, seeing you're in trouble, runs up to you to cast Cure Wounds. They magically heal 1 hit point, bringing you up to 3.
So we've already now assumed that healing has now been reduced to 1 or 2 as well, potentially. We're utilizing this now as wargame tactics in the sense of wounds. You now have a certain amount of wounds that are equal to whatever plus your constitution. Now, I agree that this would be a way to do it. It'd be interesting. It would make everything a lot faster for combat. But D&D as it is, with the health that it uses, kind of utilizes it in a way that works well for having crits and such to really amp up that tension, right? A little bit. Plus, I wonder if he'll talk about it, but the death saving throws and such, the way that you die in D&D, the way that you can get up very easily in D&D, are we changing the fact that we kind of, like with death saving throws, we could potentially still have that whole nat 20 you get up, 3 successes that we like stabilize, and then 3 failures we die, and then if you get magically healed you get back up to 1 or 2 HP or something, and it still just acts like, you know, we didn't actually fall down and we're fine and we can just do whatever. Like, yeah, again, it's a way to do it and it makes it way faster. I don't know. It, with your AC being, like, I don't know. I'm particular about looking at the numbers a little bit and, like, seeing that I can do 2d6 plus 2, you know, all that kind of stuff, rolling it out and kind of having all of those bits of math that you have to do in order to, like, kill somebody, right? Or not die, you know? And that's, like, for D&D specifically, it works fine. You know, if I want that, I can go to D&D, I can go to Pathfinder, I can go to Starfinder, and utilize those HP pools. For something like what we're doing with Vampire, we have our damage track, right? Our health track, basically. We have far fewer HP, technically, but because they're vampires, we utilize superficial and aggravated damage, right? And getting enough superficial damage to then become an aggravated damage, or just straight up doing aggravated damage and dying or going into torpor that way, then being an easy target to just kill, and all that works itself in its system. When we played City of Mists for a little while, the constant worry of breaking your, what is it, mythos and fuck, what was the other one? Basically being the character that you embody, or being the actual person, you know? It all works out fine, but I feel like wanting to do something that's a little bit more realistic in this respect, of, like, taking away HP, makes it so that we can't do as much realism the other way, in the sense of giving conditions and stuff, because, well, it does, but at the same time, having the pool of HP to utilize as a resource, basically, kind of gets taken away, where I like to think of, how much HP do I have if I go in with my character and they get hurt? Is that a worthy sacrifice of that amount of HP, that potential amount of HP, because sometimes I might not get hurt that much, or I might get hurt more, to utilize it to be put into a better position to do something else, or what, you know? And again, that's still there, but it feels like I have a lot less to work with when I have things at, like, 5 HP, you know, as my max. I don't know. It changes the feel too much for me to go, yeah, this is fine. For me, at least. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. Plus, if you're playing a giant, I know that it can take more than one hit without armor. True. It would be cool to have separate health pools, maybe one for blood loss and one for concussion and one for fatigue. This does also fly in the face of D&D's main selling points. Its ease of use. Very true, very true. But it would be cool. That's the thing. Um, it used to. That's the thing. We used to have. You could have separate health pools for like pieces of armor and stuff. If you wanted to break something, it had its own health pool. It had the hardness that you had to overcome to actually damage something. Like, it could have been fine, right? Um, one of these days I'll figure out how Dwarf Fortress determines all of its damage. Though as interested as I get in figuring out alternative damage systems when it comes time to actually run a game, I just stop caring because there's already so much else to think about. Also true. That's the thing. I think that at least for how D&D is right now, it's not that complex. Even with the older editions, but especially with 5th edition, I don't think it's that complex for you to just pick up and play and kind of work with what it's got. None of these systems do really have like a shit ton of complexity in how combat works necessarily. I mean, I think Cyberpunk does to an extent, and I think Shadowrun did when we played it a little bit to an extent, but that was an older edition as well. But for these ones, like, yeah, if I want to, if I want that kind of realism, I want to put it in for other things. I don't know. Again, adding in conditions when you get to a certain HP limit, you know, of like halfway, a third, a fourth, you know, whatever. And making it so, and like fixing how easy it is to just get up and go, like what they did with Pathfinder, with becoming wounded when you get back up from dying, you know? Which means that when you get downed again, it's easier for you to die because you get the next stage of dying, right? And then if you get downed again, you basically just die. That condition is fantastic when Pathfinder put it in, and it makes it so that there's actual consequences for you to get downed, right? But yeah, so I don't know. It's, if I want the realism, I want to go for Pathfinder more so. And even Pathfinder still has the big numbers, the big hit points, and everything. I think it wants to make it too easy to die, at least for me. I like to imagine my fights as if they were taking place in the God of War games, so yeah, realism is cool, but I want to last more than 2 fights. Yeah, I get that. I don't know, it's, for me, I like it. I will buy into the game if I want to play it, right? Um, it would be great to buy into it from the very beginning, to do any of these kinds of systems, as I have done for each of the games that I've played. But for this one, I don't know, it's just too different from what D&D is and what D&D feels like, at least from my perspective, what you can do with it, with the health pool that it has. Not saying that you can't do all the stuff that I've been saying with a lower health pool, but at least to me, feels like I have a lot more freedom to do more things. You'd think it'd be pretty easy to die at level 1, but our 3 characters fought a few things above their weight back then and came out fine. Well, sure, yeah. Exactly. It all just really depends on the dice at that point. And again, when you have things getting described to you, that's really where a lot of the game shines. Where your DM describing how things go, as long as they aren't just saying, oh, I get you get a little bit of blood dribbles down your arm. Ooh, you get hit really the fuck hard and you should be dead, but you're not. You know, like, actually putting in the effort to describe things a bit better is kind of a lot of how it, like, becomes interpreted, I guess. I mean, obviously, but like, it will change the feel of a game depending on how you absolutely, like, or how your DM was going to describe how things go. The overwhelming, or the experience calculator we're using kept rating those encounters as overwhelming for us. Well, there you go. Wouldn't fight anything if I couldn't take a hit. Well, yeah, that's why most people don't go into the life of being a D&D hero character, you know? So, I don't know. Again, it just doesn't feel right. Just had a game where I knocked out player, where I knocked a player, then I critted everyone else, but they weren't ever in real danger. Lower HP is easier to manage. Big number is hard. Well, hello, Ryrizu 9. That is fair. That's a fair point. Again, it is easier to manage, and again, I can see why a lot of people stop playing past level 10, as we've been told, because you just get to the big numbers, and they're just a pile of meat that you're basically hacking at until it is gone, instead of it being like a dynamic fight, right? That's what I'm hoping that this newest edition actually does do for people who play it, is to make the fights more dynamic, so it's less about, oh, I hit the guy, and then I hope that he gets dead before I do. And it's more, ooh, I might try to push the guy off the cliff. I might try to trip the guy so that my ally can go and stab into the ground with his advantage, you know, doing a lot more damage. Like, the teamwork aspect, right? And again, it's just one of those things that if you don't like the amount of HP or something that you're utilizing, or that is being utilized in D&D, D&D might not be the best fit as a fantasy game for you, you know? Slash, if you need to put everything down to these lower levels of HP and such, that's fine. Go for it, right? But for me, it just means that we have to change so much more that it kind of makes it makes it so that it feels like, I don't know, it just breaks how we're going to calculate everything, because, like, if I do a fireball that is just an auto hit in the area, even if you roll, it's gonna hit you, you know? And maybe that's the thing. With magic, it makes it so that everything is a hell of a lot more deadly for these lower things with this wound system that I see that's being put forth to me in this video, right? Maybe it makes it so that magic fights are the worst thing in the world. You never want to go against a single magician in any way. You know? No wizards. Oh god, will die. And then if you have a wizard on your team, hell yeah. We're gonna kill so many people. Thank god. We're gonna be safe. You know? Again, it changes the feel of everything. So, I don't know. Again, if you want to do it, nothing wrong with that. But for me, just feels different. It's not too hard to get 18 AC at first level, and low CR stuff is pretty unlikely to hit that. Yep, true. Funny thing, the fight wasn't ever about defeating the enemy. I mean, ultimately, sure, but the call they would have made would have been the worst for the player's campaign. Gotcha. Yeah, I get that. Messing around with the system really does have a lot of potentially unforeseen consequences, so you really have to think about what you're doing. Oh yeah, exactly. So here's the other thing. Utilizing, especially in these higher HP kind of fights and such, tactics are important in the sense of, if you're fighting something that can actually think, and you're fighting it and you're winning technically, right? Having the enemy team rout, or having your team retreat to come back and fight them another time or whatever, those are tactics that should be employed so that you have a bit more of that realism, so that it doesn't feel like you're just doing this, you know, oh, I'm killing somebody until they're dead, basically. It should be more of a fight of, I need to survive this so that I can keep doing the thing with these people, you know? And if driving them off is the better option rather than killing them, maybe even offering the other side surrender is a tactic that you could see a lot more people put into play, because they've beaten them enough that you're seeing most of them are bloodied, most of them are panting super hard, you know, most of them, their armor has so many dents in it, like, they look like they're doing pretty bad, or your side is the same way or something. You can offer that kind of surrender, and maybe they might take it, you know? Like, HP can be a good way to judge if that's taken into account from the character, if they have, you know, the ability to. The character can take note, quote unquote, of their HP and think, ooh, maybe I should stop fighting now. I'm gonna die. Because self-preservation is very important to most living things, you know? Even for things that don't think like that, more like an animalistic kind of thing, they still want to survive. They don't necessarily want to fight until they die, you know? They just want to have an easy bit of prey, or to defend themselves, or defend their young, like, or defend their territory, or just mark dominance. Like, there's more to a fight than just, I hit you and your HP goes down. Every hit, every HP drop does mean something. It should mean something, right? At least that's what I think. You could make a fun game where your party needs to avoid fights as they play because they can't fight. You could. Leroy avoids fights 9 out of 10 times if he can help it. That's fair. That's why he hired Star Ruby for protection. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Avoiding a fight and finding another way around is another way to do anything in any game, right? Going into combat is never really the optimal solution necessarily, but if you have to do it, you want to be good at it, and you want to be able to do it, right? Anyway.
Now you're comfortable going in for a round of attacks on this foe. You roll to attack and score a hit by beating their armor class, and the bounty hunter, seeing that you have a devout follower of the light, decides to flee.
Oh, hey, cool.
This adjustment to the game would probably be the most work for the DM, as you now have to change spells and abilities to accommodate hits instead of damage. So if a longsword hit does 1 point of damage, how many hits should a successful fireball deal? Maybe a successful fireball just does 1 hit to all enemies within its radius. I can see how this can get tricky, but I can also see how this will potentially turn into a really cool project of mine in the future. Let me know if any of you are interested in seeing what that would look like. Let's take a look at options.
Yeah, he put it perfectly. It's going to be a lot of work. And again, if you want to do it, go for it. But I personally don't think that it needs that much of a change. But we'll see, I guess.
So I'm going to go back to a question I brought up earlier in the video, and it's why do we roll to hit, and why do we roll to see the extent at which we hit? Why not just roll for damage every time? And then if you do a large enough amount of damage, then you actually would wound your target. An interesting question, and here's how you would do it. For this to actually work, we need to make 2 fundamental changes to how armor class functions rules is written. The first change is instead of rolling a d20 to see if you hit, you would just simply roll your damage dice. Seems easy enough. The next adjustment is a bit more complicated, but I'm using a similar formula that you would use to convert your 5e standard combat into a player-facing combat style. I explained this in more detail in this video. Nope, in this video, it's up here. It's actually up here in this video. So the second change is how...
Yeah, but I need a little bit of... I hope you give me a little bit of a refresher in this, because if I don't go and look at that video, this video isn't going to make any sense. And personally, I don't think that I need to go and watch a whole different video to have context to this video if you're going to explain it enough so that I can understand. So, please?
How armor functions mechanically. The best and simplest way, in my opinion, to make this work is to have armor function as damage reduction. To determine how much damage reduction your armor provides, take your armor class and subtract 10 from it. Whatever that number is that's left over, that's how much armor reduction you have. And to simplify the following example, let's call that difference your new armor score. And now an example featuring Blarg Blarg the Orc and Tavos the Generous.
So let me just put out right now, we need everything to do way less damage if we want to utilize this way already. I can already think of that, because something like Delta Green, if you have armor like a Kevlar vest or something, it acts as damage reduction, right? You take for a Kevlar vest, I believe it's 2 points of armor. So you take 2 less damage from any hit that you take, really. Well, any hit is a little subjective because it's actually wrong because you can technically call shots and everything, right? So and things can go against armor and all that. But regardless, if you have armor, it's supposed to be damage reduction. But everything in Delta Green, one, has very low damage in terms of just numbers. I think the highest that I've seen in its book was a D, I want to say 12 maybe? I might be wrong about that, maybe D10, but regardless, Delta Green has low numbers. Your character's health in Delta Green, the highest I think I've seen is like 18 maybe. I doubt that, but like I think that's possible technically. But it's probably not. I think the most average that I've seen so far is like 10 or so, maybe less, right? In which case, everything does like, ooh, you do a little bit, you do a little less damage. You do a little less damage to something when it has armor of some sort. Terrain can count as armor, like all this kind of stuff, cover and all of that. If you are calculating damage. Plus, it's way harder to heal and everything in that game too. A lot more realism. A lot of that is cool. For D&D, again, the way that it works, damage. High Rollers DM uses damage threshold on stuff, which I use in my own twist and offered to players at times. Cool. You're talking about Mark Humes, I believe. High Rollers. I used to watch High Rollers quite a bit. I should get back to them. I started their like second campaign, Erois, I think it was. And I never finished it. I watched their entire first campaign, and I really liked it. But interesting. So again, I don't know. I guess we'll see the example here, but with the going over, let's say 10 minus your armor score or armor class to get armor score, you have for I think it's leather, it's 12, so it'd be 2, right? And that's good at low levels, but it doesn't really scale much. You would have to make it so that it scales better. Because everything does a lot of damage. And then if you don't do that, then you have to dial back everything's damage to make it so that it works. That it isn't going to do so much more damage. Damage reduction from armor is available as a 3.5 Unearthed Arcana variant rule. Excuse me, you reduce the listed AC of armor by half, rounded down, then use the number AC was reduced by as damage reduction. Okay. There you go. So they already kind of had that in 3.5. Very cool. Excuse me. From armor bonus and natural armor bonus only, not total AC. Okay. Gotcha. Cool. So yeah, it can be done. Absolutely. But again, it's still going to do a hell of a lot of damage to you most of the time, I would assume. Reduce the list. So armor bonus, natural armor bonus only, not total AC. Okay. So the plus, what, like 4 from like chainmail, and then you could get a plus 4 from natural. Because I think you could stack natural and armor bonus back in 3.5. It's been a hot minute. But yeah, I mean, you would still be taking a lot of damage, but also, I don't know. It's another way to do it, again, of course. But at least in current 5e standard stuff, it feels like it might not work so well. I don't know. Let's see the example so I can get a better picture.
Blarg the Orc is wearing medium armor that gives him an AC of 16 by 5th edition's rules as written. If we convert Blarg's AC to an armor score, we subtract 10 from his 16, which leaves him with an armor score of 6.
Sure.
Our hero, Tavos the Generous, engages the orc and attacks with his quarterstaff, which deals d6 plus strength damage. Tavos rolls a 3 plus his strength score of 2, yielding 5 damage. Thanks to Blarg Blarg's armor score of 6, Tavos dealt 0 damage to him as all of his attacks glanced off of Blarg Blarg's armor. Now, it's Blarg Blarg's turn. Blarg Blarg grabs...
So, I'm already like, hey, if you narrate D&D damage the same way, keep armor class the same and everything, if they hit, or quote-unquote, if they miss, you can say that it's glancing off the armor, and it's doing no damage, right? It's just another way to do it. This is just, again, you are auto-hitting, roll for damage, really. Natural armor stacks with armor? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Hell yeah.
His axe and
it doesn't anymore in 5e, so that's why I was wondering, because it's always, what's the highest?
Swings it at Tavos, rolling a d12 plus his strength score of +3. Blarg Blarg rolled a 12 on his d12, a critical hit. Blarg Blarg gets to roll his weapon dice again because of his critical hit, yielding an 8 on the second roll. So 12 plus 8 plus 3 equals 23 damage. Tavos has an armor score of 4, and thus takes 19 points of damage from the orc. Tavos is badly injured, but now it's his turn. One of the biggest concerns I had when I read about this concept was being kind of sad about the concept of critical hits going away. But I think that's remedied with critical hits triggering on a max damage die roll, netting you an additional dice roll. Apparently this isn't...
Yeah, everything then becomes explosive die. So, instead of having health, or instead of having an AC, well, yeah, instead of having an AC, we then just have HP as your resource, basically. So you will always take damage and everything in every fight if you have bad armor. That's fine. But I don't know. When I roll to hit, or when an enemy rolls to hit me, the chance of missing is something that can be very narratively interesting because you can set up scenarios with it. Having everything just automatically always hit kind of feels weird because it takes away, where I guess it always has that risk of you taking a bunch of damage if you put yourself into a position. The drawback of I might not be able to hit something if I put myself in this position is now gone, in the sense of, I don't know. I guess my immediate thought is when you put your character into a situation where they get surrounded or something, right? And they're able to get through it while everything is missing them, quote unquote, missing. Basically you can narrate it as dodging or having things clink off the armor and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's fine to not have that anymore, but you're missing something when you kind of visualize this scene of the character runs into a group of goblins to go after a kidnapped peasant or something, right? They're going and chasing after them, and then goblins surround them, but the character goes and goes to, start stabbing at goblins to get through, stabs at one, hits it, kills it dead. The other ones start stabbing at him. They start to some actually land stabs into crevices in their armor, but others they bounce off. They kind of create sparks as they slide the kind of flint knife against the metal armor, and the character kind of keeps dispatching goblins slowly as they continue to try to stab at him, some of them completely missing and their weapon kind of bouncing off in such a way that it accidentally hits the other goblin in the eye. If you want to have a critical miss, actually have some sort of fumble component. I don't know. It takes that away to me, which doesn't feel like it makes me feel like I, as a DM, then have a little bit less of a tool to narrate with, because now I can't have that mechanical thing of, ooh, that goblin fucking missed and missed hard. Maybe I actually want that goblin to fuck up one of his friends by accident. Like, something has happened that makes it so that this goblin has actually royally fucked up, or the character has royally fucked up in such a way. I want to put a little bit of a spin on that, potentially. It just takes away that ability that I then have to do that. I don't know. It just feels weird to me. I just say make a new D12 hit die class and call it a day. If only Wizards of the Coast had the balls, so I made one. Fuck them. The hit point talk triggered me. Sorry. You're fine. I get that. Yeah, I mean, they can do that. You can do that. That's fine. I don't know. This doesn't, like, everything that we've got here doesn't fix anything for me, Doesn't really, like, nothing seemed to be a problem, at least to me, beforehand. So, I don't know. At least the way that we've run games. Now, again, we haven't done a lot of 5e stuff, but I have played 5e a bit, and it never really felt like the HP was the issue at the time. It's really just nothing really happens when you lose it, and nothing really happens when you get downed, which Pathfinder fixed. So, conditions can fix. Homebrews that create conditions have fixed, right? It's not been the question of hit points. It's utilizing those hit points in such a way to make it so that they matter more than just, ooh, I'm no longer in the fight. Owie. The only things I can't think of that don't stack, that doesn't stack, are mage armor with regular armor and armor bonus from bracers of armor with regular armor. Fair enough. I guess mage armor with bracers of armor either. Yeah. Homebrew saves the day again. Well, this is also homebrew. And again, homebrew is fine. It's just, I don't know what we're fixing with this that makes it so that it's better than anything else.
New idea, but the one term that I keep seeing pop up everywhere is called exploding dice. That means each consecutive dice roll has a chance of rolling max damage again, and you can technically, although very unlikely, do an infinite amount of damage. This also means that daggers have like a 25% chance to score a critical hit, while a great axe only has an 8% chance. Both of which, mind you, are a lot higher than the typical 5% in 5e. With this armor score system, we have now combined the to hit roll and damage into one roll. Is this system better than the tried and true method of rolling to hit? I don't know. I think it's a really cool idea and I like it a lot. Also, let me know if you plan to try this out in your D&D 5th edition games, your index card RPG or OSE or whatever system you play. I'd love to see if we can get a discussion going on this. Personally, I'm a big fan of adding house rules and hacking my games, so if you are too, I highly recommend you watch this video next. But otherwise, thanks for watching and I'll see you all next time.
Sure. Okay. That's House DM. Yeah, I like homebrewing and stuff too, but this isn't necessarily something that I think I would utilize, but I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, right? It's just something, the first one requires a lot of work on the DM's part. So if you really want to put in all of that effort, absolutely go for it, right? Second one, I think, takes out a very interesting narrative focus that we can do, which is literally narrating the hits, narrating the misses, and being able to talk about that kind of stuff, right? And actually, like, throw a scene into a more cinematic lens because of it. So I don't know. It's a way that works if you like the original the first point seemed like it was just a lack of narration that seemed to make things feel wrong to him for his games, which I then say, well, then we just need to narrate it a different way. The second one, again, also feels like we should narrate it the way that we can do already. And then it makes it so that things seem like they, I don't know, do a little bit more. But this is also, I don't know. Damage reduction is fine, but in something like this, I feel like if we want to do damage reduction, we can do damage reduction with the addition of rolling to hit. Because just because you hit somebody doesn't mean that you've pierced through the armor in some way, you know? I don't know. That's just what I think. The video was alright? Yes. I think it was fine. Again, not something for me, but maybe somebody else might find it to be something they want to do. I guess he doesn't want to hear about my D&D 3.5 games, just 5e specifically. What do you mean? Oh, for this? Yeah, well, everything is through a 5e lens these days. Nothing's through 3.5. But we can go and point to 3.5 for things that we want to utilize, so it really, it's still relevant, right? Because they did it in 3.5 for a variant rule of damage reduction. It's something that works. Anyway, that's the first video. Here comes the second video. I don't have my lads here with me today, unfortunately. But that just means that I'm going to know more about this than they do. Maybe. I mean, Aiden might have already gotten the book by now. I don't actually know. But I don't have the book yet. And I didn't look into the actual changes to the PHB for 2024's D&D. So today we talk about 10 huge rule changes in the 2024 Player's Handbook. This one brought to us by the Dungeon Dudes themselves. We've covered them many a time. We'll see what they have to say about it. And we'll learn a few things about these changes to the rules. Hopefully they all go into promoting more of a teamwork aspect that I feel like 2024's class changes that we've seen so far for the three classes of Paladin and Rogue and Ranger, that they kind of are promoting more so, because again, that seems good to me. I like the idea of everybody working more as a team rather than one specific person potentially just nuking something over and over again. Still definitely a thing that can happen, but I feel like having it so that everything seems more mechanically focused that way will make it so that it feels like everybody's contributing more to a combat. But we also might have some changes here that might be for more than just combat, hopefully. I don't know. We shall see. Let me know if you use it in your D&D 5e games, he said. Specifically, paraphrasing though. Was just funny to me that he specified 5e. Oh, yeah. Well, that's what everybody's talking about, and everybody's been talking about, right? Because D&D didn't pop off until then, so. Anyway. Oh, I'm fine with using homebrew just to try something different, even if it doesn't fix a problem, but yeah, I don't see a problem that was fixed here. I don't even see a real problem. Exactly. Exactly. I don't think he addressed the problem that is actually there for how 5e works, which Pathfinder has addressed, so, anyway, here we go. 10 huge rule changes. We'll see what they are.
Greetings, my name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin, and we are the Dungeon Dudes.
And today, we are cracking open the 2024 Player's Handbook to discuss 10 huge rules changes coming to the game.
A lot has stayed the same in the 2024 rules, but there are some major differences that you need to be aware of. Note that in this video, we are not going to talk about the major changes to the classes. We're going to be doing that in a future video. This is changes to the basic and fundamental rules of the game. If you've played 5th edition before, the game flow works pretty much the same, but if you're not reading through the entire rulebook, you may miss some of these changes that could impact the way that you play going forward. There's a lot to discuss.
That's just in general how any update works. If you don't read the rules, you won't know how the game has changed. Yes. Thank you. I'll bring my horse into a dungeon. Dungeon says no. Paladin cries and stays home because they can't smite anymore, I heard. No, they can still smite, they just aren't overpowered as fuck anymore. And people are crying about that because they want their overpowered smite, which... just, it's fine. Get over it. It's okay. I get that you want that again. Just go back to 5e if you really, really, really want that. But again, everything has been changed to promote teamwork and a team play. So, dunno. Kelly got glasses, looks nice. He's had them in a few of these, so... yeah.
Today, so let's get rolling.
Oh, for the dungeon thing? I have no idea. That's... whatever. Sure.
The first big change, and this impacts every single character, every single class, is that everybody chooses their subclass at 3rd level now.
This is going to affect clerics, wizards, sorcerers, warlocks, and druids, who in the previous edition all got their subclasses at 1st or 2nd level.
Yep.
Now everybody's getting them at 3rd.
Well, all of the subclasses that are included for each class in the player's handbook have been updated to reflect this change. You can still use subclasses from prior source books, just that if you choose a sorcerer subclass like the Shadow Sorcerer, or for example, the Twilight Domain Cleric, just remember that you're not going to get those 1st level features until level 3.
The second main...
Okay, that's... yes? Okay. So... what's interesting, what they've changed in the sense of making that work, for those of you who don't know, is they've made it so that spellcaster classes get their spells at level 1 now, instead of not until, like, level 2 for some, and such. So, everything gets their spell list at level 1, everything gets a lot of, like, the core essentials that they would need at level 1, and then they still become a character, or more defined as a character, at level 3. Now, you actually can more feel like a character at level 1, which is nice, which means that there might actually be a little bit more level 1 play at that point, so that you can start using spells and all that kind of stuff early, and actually, I don't know, see a level 1 wizard out in the field again. Actually, sorry, not level 1 wizard. Level 1, I think it was cleric, and level 1 ranger and druid. Because I don't think they got their spellcasting until level 2 at the very least. In 5. And they've changed that. So, good. I think it's good. I think that keeping everything more uniformed in that way is a better idea, because nobody is outstepping other people in the sense of having a lot of things at level 1 or level 2, or not getting anything at level 2, really. Or some people getting something at level 2, right? Before they felt like they were not just a guy with, like, a hammer or something, right? So, good change. Thank you.
Major change is that ability score boosts now come from your background, not your species. And these ability score boosts, you now either get +2 to one score and +1 to another, or you can give +1 to 3 separate ability scores.
This is a pretty big change for a lot of different species and characters, because previously we had things like humans who got +1 to 2 different stats, or some species that got +2 to one stat and +2 to another, whereas everyone's on the same sort of playing field now with their customization. And while the backgrounds define, you know, your choice of 3 different ability scores that you can boost, they're pretty flexible. So no matter what species or background you choose, you're pretty much going to be able to get a nice chunky +2 boost to your primary ability.
You could still use older species. And
so they basically did what Pathfinder's done. Pathfinder did this so long ago with Pathfinder 2, and it worked really well because, hey, you get to now, instead of just being really set into what a stereotypical dwarf is, what a stereotypical orc is, all that kind of stuff, hey, you now have the mechanical reason to now say, ooh, I'm actually more like this, because we've always had it so that we can branch out a little bit with each of our characters, right? What if you are the dwarf who's way more interested in cloistering yourself away and everything, and learning more about like spells and such? Why not? Like, dwarf mages exist, so why not have it so that you can just have them, instead of being higher constitution and all that, have it so that they have higher intelligence and such. Like, they can still have the constitution and all that, but now you can actually pick, oh, I want my core character, or my core attribute, to be intelligence instead of constitution, right? I still might get a +1 in constitution, but now I get a +2 because big brain, you know? I think this is a fantastic change. I think that this is something that people just were doing in general from 5e, because after a while they went, yeah, but what if I'm a different type of orc? Or what if I'm a different type of elf? Or whatever, right? And again, Pathfinder 2e did this as soon as it came out, and everybody really liked it. I have never heard of anybody going, oh, that's not great. Because changing, or getting certain attributes from something that you have done with your life up to this point makes sense. If I'm a blacksmith, I get constitution and strength, maybe. I don't remember exactly what Pathfinders are, but if I'm a blacksmith, I get constitution and strength, maybe. If I'm a merchant of some sort, maybe I get wisdom and charisma. Like, something like that makes a whole hell of a lot more sense than just, I grew up as this one thing. There we go, you know? That's how I got the things. Because I get it, genetics are one thing, sure, but how you lived your life also should influence, like, your body, I guess, quote unquote. Just makes total sense to me.
Backgrounds, you're just going to ignore the ability score boost that you got from your species in the previous edition and instead look at the background options presented here.
Continuing the theme of changes to backgrounds, which are a huge impact, every background now gives you a feat at first level. This is in a special category called the Origin Feats. So it's not any feat in the game, it's only a specific subset of the feats that are available.
The Origin feats presented in the Player's Handbook 2024 are Alert, Crafter, Healer, Lucky, Magic Initiate, Musician, Savage Attacker, Skilled, Tavern Brawler, and Tough.
Humans have also been changed. Instead of getting any feat that they want, they get only an extra Origin feat. So as a human, you actually get 2 Origin feats right away at level 1, but you're not going to be able to jump ahead at first level and gain anything like Warcaster or Great Weapon Master. Everyone has to wait until 4th level to get those.
Which makes sense. That's fine. I think we're jumping to. I feel like this should instead of just being one thing of like the background feat, is that we should be talking about feats in general because they've totally been changed. But I know we need our top 10 video, so we have to split it up into a couple of different things. So I'm assuming in a bit we're going to be talking about feats in general and how they work in a second. Because from what I understand, we're getting our feat trees back because, again, Pathfinder did that. Oh, 3.5 used to have that, and everybody like understood how that worked, and people understand how Pathfinder's feat system works. So really, what I'm getting is that 2024 D&D is going to be a lot more like Pathfinder, and maybe that's good because it'll still basically be Diet Pathfinder at that point, I assume. But I don't know what these feats do, so what I would really have liked here was a a list, like a table or something to look at so that I could see what they do, because I have no idea from your video. Cool. What if I'm a brain orc? Well, then you got a big brain. Weird Boy is, yes, absolutely what it's called. Wisdom and Charisma is what Leroy got from being a tradesman. He would work well in Pathfinder, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you exactly get in Pathfinder and all that, but yeah. So, meh. What happens when the whole team takes alert? I don't know, because I don't know what alert does, because I haven't been told anything yet. I've just been told that there are new things. Which, again, I'm glad there are, that are inherent with these background feats. That's good. That just means that it's another reason to take certain things for a character, and hopefully they make narrative sense as well for what I'm building.
I think that some of these choices are pretty cool. You can take skilled multiple times, which, if you're a human, means that you can double that up. Also, Magic Initiate being an origin feat and anybody having access to it is pretty amazing way for anyone in your party to get access to spells like Shield or Guidance or a whole bunch of other options.
Especially because Magical Initiate allows you to choose which class you want to get the cantrips for, either druids, clerics, or wizards. And it also then lets you change the ability score that you cast with. So if you want to grab wizard cantrips, but cast them with charisma, you can with Magic Initiate.
That's super cool. That's a good way to have it now for Magic Initiate, because then, from what I remember, Magic Initiate in 5e was just, oh, you get to have some cantrips from the beginning, and they are hard set on what ability scores they used. But now, having the whole change and everything means that you are trained in a different way, which is way cooler. Plus, you can have it so that it's more thematic to what you want your character to be doing. But it also means that magic is so much more prevalent, and it makes sense that magic would be so much more prevalent in the world, because everybody has the ability to become a wizard or something like that, and all these big spells and everything. Like, it is a good change that, again, is good for world building, because you then have literal artificers, not just the class, but literal artificers who utilize magic to make things, to make it so that it's easier for them to produce fucking, I don't know, like cloth, like crops, like anything really, so that they can utilize that slight, simple magic in day-to-day. You would see that a whole lot more if people could actually learn it and all that.
Continuing with feats, the next big change is that all general feats, which are the standard feats, not origin and not some of the other cool options.
We could have combined these two things, but then we would have had 9 and not had our list, but go on.
That you'll hear about in other videos, but the general feats, they all come with an ability score boost.
Oh.
This means that you're going to get +1 to an ability score anytime that you take one of these feats.
Yeah, so it's usually a choice of 1 to 3 different...
Okay, we couldn't have combined them, but also, like, tell me more about how feats work, I guess.
Different abilities. Sometimes, like, it's like your strength or your dexterity or your strength, your constitution, or for example, Warcaster, you can choose any of the intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. And for many feats in the game, this is a straight upgrade. Again, Warcaster, for instance, is exactly the same as it used to be under the 2014 rules, except it just now has the extra +1 to an ability score on top of that.
That's fine.
This means for a lot of characters, you're going to have some interesting choices, because I think that many characters are going to want to start with a 15 in their primary ability score, add that +2 boost to it, and then you're going to have to decide, okay, at 4th level, I'm going to take a feat, get a +1, get an 18, and then at 8th and 12th level, am I going to just go right to the max outing my ability score for my primary, or am I going to take 2 really juicy feats but wait till 12th level to max out my score? I suspect for most characters, you're going to want to load up on feats and max out your primary a little more gradually.
Okay. Maybe you'll talk about it in a bit, but we don't, like, that's a big change, is the fact that feats in general have changed, in the fact that, ASIs are now a feat technically, so you don't automatically get them. Maybe we'll talk about that. And then the actual as far as I'm aware, again, this is only things that I get from other things, but having it so, like, are feats gated off by other things, other requirements other than just, like, a stat? Do you need a feat for another feat? Like, do they build off of each other in some sort of feat-like tree? Tree-like feats, if you will. I need more information about the feats in general, because they have changed how all the feats work now, technically. Feats aren't optional anymore. They are baked in. That's a big change. Feats were an option before. They were not an actual core rule. Talk about that, please. That seems to be something that you should be talking about before you talk about all of these other things. I don't know. Side note, I saw Pointy Hat made another problem video about what Loroi is. I really hope it's better. Dude, I don't know. The problem videos make me go, just because the few that we've covered so far. I just don't know if I want to listen to any more problems, quote unquote. I have trouble spelling. It's the magic user that starts with the S. Sorcerer. Yeah, I got you. I said that 7 was a good number for a list, and YouTube didn't like that for some reason. Oh, cool. Hell yeah. That's fair. Like, I don't know, man. It is what it is at this point. Like, I'm gonna steal that feat tree idea, to be honest. It was a thing. It used to be a thing. Go look at 3.5. D&D 3.5's rules. Feats used to have to be taken before other feats so that you could actually build off them if you wanted specific things. Pathfinder 2e also does that. You need certain feats for other feats. It's a feat tree. Take it. It's good. Sorcerer was insightful for Pointy Hat. I'll take your word for it. Maybe we'll cover it at some day. I don't know. It's, again...
There's a big change. Drinking a potion of healing used to be an action. Now it is a bonus action.
Okay, we're
this
going
rule
here
was
now.
actually a little tucked away. You actually have to look at the potion of healing rules under the specific item, and it tells you that it's a bonus action to drink it. Not only to drink it yourself, but you can give it to an ally to drink as a bonus action as well.
So this was a very popular house rule.
Yeah.
So much so that a lot of people never realized there was a house rule to drink healing potions as a bonus action. And now it's just the rule. It remains to be seen whether all potions can be consumed with a bonus action or just healing potions.
Well, you can extrapolate if a healing potion is a bonus action, then every potion should be. Because what's the difference between guzzling a healing potion and guzzling a potion of invisibility or a potion of fly? What is the difference, like, actually? If they are different for some reason, I don't understand. That makes no fucking sense. But you have to extrapolate it, because otherwise, yeah, you're fucked. I don't know. The problem with feat trees, I assume, are low levels, and some power gamers don't like feat trees because they have to take weaker feats to get the good ones. Okay. I think it's fine, personally. If somebody doesn't like that, then that's unfortunate. I really have nothing more than that, unfortunately. Add to the feat tree, prestige classes in 3.5 would sometimes require certain feats and skill levels. Yes, I think we need to bring that back. Prestige classes, first off, and requirements as well for those classes. I like those. Those are good. I want to build to become something. It just makes it so that it feels like I'm working towards something. The ultimate, actual, like, peak of my character, you know? Some prestige classes were better than others, of course. We all know this, in the sense of some were and some were, whoa, really good. But it was more for the thematic thing, really, for me. I'll watch the video later, but if it's better than the problem with dragons and gods video, then it will be a plus. Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Jesus.
Because the rule specifically is for the item, and there isn't like a drink a potion action described in the rules.
This one's tough because we were really adamant about drinking potions as an action, and we actually have said in so many prior videos that you should either make them an action and give full healing, or make it a bonus action and don't give full healing.
What?
We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do moving forward.
I think I would still might allow it to be maximized if you spend the whole action. This next rule...
Maximized? How are we like, in the sense of, instead of rolling for your HP that you get back from a potion, you just get the maximum? What would change when you... I guess it's just... I don't know. If you want to make it that way, that's fine, but I'm just thinking fundamentally from like a literal, I'm drinking something for a few seconds longer than I'm drinking it the other way around, that what changes, you know? I don't get it, but I get it. Even fourth has a version of Prestige you could literally work towards becoming an elemental. That's sick. The point of Prestige classes was to help you multi-class and still keep up with other characters and effectiveness. Yeah. It's cool. Brought it up because Leroy is a sorcerer. I have to tie it to the topic, same as the other two. Oh no, I get you.
Is probably the one that left me floored when I read it, because I didn't see this one.
We're just flying through the rules, by the way. They've made videos that are like an hour or 45 minutes or so, but we're just flying here, you know? Okay. I always had it in my mind that, yes, healing potions are smaller tinctures, while the potion of Hill Giant Strength legit is big with a huge toenail. Sure, that's fair enough. Like, I'm fine with it if you give me a reason, but for mechanical reasons, I guess it's just like, in the sense of just what I'm reading from the rulebook, if you literally just tell me, oh, only this one potion type is a bonus action, and you never bring it up ever again, then I guess I have to assume that every single other one is a bonus action. But if you as the DM say, the way that these actual potions are made, they're made so that it's a lot more liquid, you have to drink it, or you have to actually try to keep it down so it takes you a whole action, you know, because of what's in it and all that, what it tastes like and everything, then I'll go, okay, fine, yeah, let's do it. I like that. Let's go. But, yeah, you just need to give me a reason as to why I need to think of it in a different way. Because you can't just say, well, I'm just gonna make this, take an action. At least for me, because then I'll go, but why? But why are you doing that when this is a bonus action? What's the difference? Because then you have to justify it to me. I'm sorry. But I'm going to ask you a question. You also were kind of meant to homebrew them. The ones in the DMG were really just supposed to be examples. Oh, I'm not even thinking about the DMG ones. I'm thinking about other ones. At least that's how I remember the DMG, the 3.5 DMG framing it. Okay, fair enough. It's been a while since I've read the 3.5 DMG. I'm thinking of more of the ones from just different books, not just the DMG, so.
One coming, and it is a new rule called one spell with a slot per turn. It replaces the old rules surrounding what happens when you cast a spell with a bonus action in your main action, which were really confusing and often misapplied, and people got it wrong all the time. And now the rule is just literally, you can only cast one spell with a spell slot per turn.
So this rule...
Okay. That's good for clarification, because as he said, yeah, people would get it wrong all the time in the sense that they would be casting two different spells, like, with their action and bonus action. I've seen it. I have seen it many a time, and I have been like, well, I gotta say, unfortunately, you do have to pick one or the other. I'm sorry. But if you want to let it slide, that's fine. But I will say, because at the time, it was just, you know, when I was playing in that 5e game with the group that I was playing with, I was just like, well, I mean, we can do it this way, but so I was being a little bit of a rulesman. Don't get me wrong. I was being a little bit of a rulesman, but I wasn't like stringently enforcing it like some crazy people would saying, no, you have to do it this way. No, I was just like, well, but I would always have the caveat of, if you really want to do it that way, that's fine. Like, it's no big deal. But we have been doing it this way, so I don't know. Man, it's almost like an expansion on items as a whole with a crafting system would have been nice in 5th. Well, hey, yeah, if they had it dedicated, but Xanathar's does have the crafting thing. I will say nowadays, it does have the crafting section, but it doesn't really tell you a lot, right? It tells you enough that you can kind of extrapolate a bit, but yeah, it is in Xanathar's, so I don't know.
Still means that you can't cast a bonus action spell such as, let's say, a sorcerer using Quicken Spell and then cast another spell on top of that. You never could,
Yup.
but now it's crystal clear. This also has some other implications, though. The famous give your wizard a couple levels of fighter to give them action surge is no longer going to work because you still can only cast one leveled spell per turn.
It never worked in the beginning, so yeah, makes sense. I don't know why people would do that just to try to do that, because that never would have, like, you can only cast one spell per turn, like, in the original rules, and then you can do cantrips all the fucking time if you want to, but one spell per turn.
You used to have that loophole of using action surge to cast 2 fireballs on a turn. You can't anymore.
I don't remember that being a loophole. I wouldn't... What? That was a loophole? I don't think... If there's a wording that makes it so that that is a different, like, a different turn? I don't know. But, okay. Didn't 5.5 clarify the action surge rule too? I guess. It must have, right? Don't know. He's just talking about spell slots at this point, but, I mean, that is a good change. That is a solid thing to have written in stone. It's always been there, but now people can actually, like, do it.
It's also kind of killed from both directions because the fighter's action surge feature prohibits you from taking the magic action when you action surge as well.
There you go.
Squash
So,
that.
Yeah.
so this wizard's action surging, casting 2 spells, 2 fireballs, not going to happen. Or is it?
What?
Because there's actually a loophole here. Some game effects allow you to cast a leveled spell without expending a spell slot. For example, you can take the Fey Touched feat and Misty Step once without using a spell slot, and there's actually a couple...
Isn't that a bonus action? But it's... Yeah, it doesn't matter what... It's just talking about spell slots. Never mind, hold on.
subclass features and class features that allow you to cast a leveled spell without expending a spell slot. Interestingly enough, none of these are available to sorcerers that I know of, but what that does mean is if you somehow have a way of casting a spell on your turn without using a spell slot and then casting another spell using a bonus action or something else, you could theoretically cast 2 spells per turn.
Yeah, and with Fate Touched, you can Misty Step as your bonus action and then cast Fireball.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm really interested in, and we don't have an answer on this yet.
Yeah, I mean, if the rules don't clarify it, that's something you could exploit, but if your DM says, no, I won't let you do that, it's still 1 spell and then cantrips. Please just utilize that. Because that's how I've always done it myself. You can do 1 spell, and then as many cantrips as you want, if you have the actions for it. Because that just helped with spell economy. The action economy, specifically for spells. But it just simplified it easily. I don't know. That was fine.
Because we don't have the DMG, the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is probably going to include all the magic items. But
Okay.
how is this going to interact with magic items? The understanding of magic items currently is that something like a Staff of Power has charges that it uses to cast spells, not your spell slot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that is
my
different.
question going forward is, how does this interact with magic items? Can I quicken a spell as a sorcerer and then use my staff, wand, or scroll to cast an additional spell.
I would say so. I would say that that would be fine just because you're utilizing a different resource. And technically you would be if you cast a spell that doesn't incur a spell slot that you have inherently on your character. Technically, yes, as well. Because you usually get one per, however many points whatever your modifier is per day for those kinds of spells. So maybe I would allow it too there. It really depends. But for items and such that could be consumed and not recharged potentially, yeah, oh, for sure. You're not getting that shit back. Usually, if it's a scroll, it just fucking burns up when you use it or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. Nothing wrong with that to me. Because you're absolutely, it's gone. For the charges, if you use it too much, it might just break. Yeah, they get a few back at sunrise or whatever, however it works, but you don't always get full back, usually, as far as I remember, with how magic items work. Then again, didn't really use a lot of magic items for 5e that utilize charges, so I could be wrong. But things that have finite amounts and no way of replenishing them, absolutely fine. Things that have finite amounts that don't replenish entirely after a day, also fine with that. And also things that, I guess, for at the end of the day, if it was an inherent spell of like being a tiefling or something and using the rebuke, the Hellfire rebuke or whatever it is, I think, something like that, that you get like 3 per day or something that you used to. I don't actually know if you get that anymore. Then it should be fine because it's technically, a limited amount per day. So, I mean, that's a bad example because that's a reaction, but something like that was an action or a bonus action, I guess is fine. YouTube didn't like your fireball joke. Did you get censored? Oh my god. Somebody else got censored? Wow. I don't have filters on for the chats and stuff. I don't know why it does that. As far as I know, at least. To be fair, it might be the inherent, like, just regular old filter that YouTube just has, so I don't know. Anyway.
Yep.
Surprise! Surprise has changed.
That was a surprise.
So, surprise is always a little confusing. A lot of people thought...
Yeah, surprise was weird before. Surprise was like, it only counted for certain monsters, technically, but we and everybody that I knew who played just used a surprise round if you got the jump on something, instead of having to count one monster is surprised, another is not, one is back there, another is not, like in the same areas and stuff, just to make it simpler, because fuck it, who cares at that point. You want to at least reward them for being able to get the jump on something, unless it can't be surprised, in which case then that's just the nature of that particular creature. YouTube has been getting weird as of late. Oh yeah, just in general, for sure. So, who knows what they'll censor next.
There was a surprise round, but it was more an individual condition applied to a creature who was surprised. But It's changed here. And if you are surprised, so if a creature is caught unaware at the start of combat, all that happens is that they get disadvantage on their initiative roll, which means that if you equip your player properly, you might not care.
Yeah. And this means that also with pure dumb luck, a surprised creature that, say, even with disadvantage, rolls 2 20s, they still could go before their ambushers. So in the 2014 rules, a surprised creature just didn't get to do anything on their turn. And they still got a turn, but they couldn't act. Now it's possible the other way around. So this is a pretty big nerf to surprise.
But it does kind of go in line with our theory that things that cause players to not have anything to do on their turn isn't fun.
It's also, though, less rewarding for the players to get surprise. And less, but on the flip side, like, I have seen many encounters where the players had surprise. It's just decisively decided because it's such a overwhelming advantage. And so toning it down a lot, I have mixed up feelings because I like that surprise was powerful and so it rewarded players' creativity, but it might have just been too punishing. Now it's, you're still going to get a turn. And unfortunately, though, I think that we're still going to be telling people there's no surprise round in D&D.
It's something that gets applied to you if you are, and it can be on an individual basis.
Yes, technically it's not there, but the reason why we all did it was because the surprise rule sucked. So this one is, yeah, you know what? I think I'm with Monty on this, actually. It's Monty, right? I'm pretty sure. I see it being something that is, it could potentially backfire in the sense of, and I've had it happen. I've told about it a bunch of times, but I have on disadvantage rolled 2 natural 20s together. It's fucking wild. But it's very rare. And even if you roll high, like 2 high numbers, you as the DM can narratively say that something happened for whatever was surprised. Say they had set a some sort of tripwire or something that nobody saw, or some, I don't know, something kept them alert so that they would be able to still be able to act. I don't know. I guess it's like maybe they keep an animal with them that doesn't really serve a purpose other than to alarm them when something happens, so that it isn't like a mechanical benefit in any way / another combatant, but it is there to alert them of danger of some sort, maybe. Or like I was saying with the tripwire thing, maybe they set a personal one that like yanks their own like their foot or something that will wake them when they are if this is like a nighttime ambush. Or I guess you have to say, despite their attempt to be quiet and sneak up, it's just a bad one NPC just turns their head at the wrong time and sees the players coming in, you know? Like, it's something that you can do. You can make it so that it works. Or you can do what we've always been doing, which is the surprise round, which, again, yeah, seems overpowered for sure. But if you're okay with it as a DM to say, my players have prepared enough and want to go in and they've rolled well with their stealth and everything, why shouldn't they get the advantage? They've really gone for it this time, you know? Why not give them that? It's why I gave surprise rounds. It's why I like surprise rounds. Because it's just me saying, good job, guys. You took the time to, like, develop a plan and really, really go for it. I don't know. Skynet's trying to domesticate the humans now? Always. Doesn't like burning or lit next to it? Next to city? Jeez. Rage against the machine. Rage harder. Machines like being mean. Yes. I don't know. Yeah, with how rare surprise rounds are and how much prep they require, feels weird to take it away. I agree. Yeah. Because, like, again, yes, technically, in 5e, it was never a thing. You never had surprise rounds. You just had, oh no, character, you're surprised. Or, oh no, enemy, this one is surprised. This one is not. This one is. Like, you had to go through and see who was surprised and who wasn't, because of passive perception and such, I believe. But again, yeah, I just see it as a reward to give a surprise round if players pull it off correctly. So why not? But again, this works too. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be used. Maybe it won't. Maybe we'll still see surprise rounds. Who knows?
The other cool thing here, though, if we look at something like Alert no longer prevents surprise because surprise has changed, but it still gives you that bonus to initiative. So if you have the Alert feat, there's a good chance that you're not going to care if you're surprised.
Okay, so if Alert is the way that it works in the sense of just being improved initiative, I'm fucking taking that. Yeah, hell yeah. All the time, every day. For sure. Initiative is great. Improved initiative is a great feat. 3.5. Who takes improved initiative? I do.
Also wondering if weapons of warning are going to make a comeback in this update. And if they do, are they going to work the same? Because then if you have Alert and a weapon of warning, people could be surprising you all day and you're not going to care.
I mean, previously, if you had Alert and Weapon
I don't know what weapons of warning is. If somebody knows, please tell me, because I never heard of that.
Warning, you wouldn't be surprised anyway.
Fair. So I'm hoping that still continues.
Yeah. This one is more of a clarification, but it's still a change. It's explicitly spelled out now in the rules that a creature can now always voluntarily fail a saving throw if they want to. So this came up when we were talking about the Path of the World Tree Barbarian teleporting allies, because its forced teleport ability has a saving throw associated with it. So now if you want to, you can teleport your allies and they can be like, yeah, I'm going to fail that save so I can teleport.
Okay, so now we have a mechanical thing to tell us something that we've already always done. Cool. All right. I get it. It's fine. It's a good change to have just so that people don't get confused, because some people might go, "Oh, do I have to roll this? I guess I do. It's in the rules, right?" But some people might go, "Damn, it sucks that it's in the rules that I have to roll this. Why can't I just voluntarily fail?" Because voluntarily failing saves and such for narrative reasons, for your character, for anything really, that's stuff that really is fun and cool to have the ability to do. And if you haven't been doing that as a DM, if somebody just goes, like, for your player to say, "Oh, I'm going to be hit by that," or "I'm going to be experiencing this and I have a save for it," I might just go with it, you know? I might just do it. Vampire has something for that, for frenzies. You can ride the wave, if you will. So you just go through with the frenzy, and you don't roll against it. You just are allowed to utilize it, and I think it gives you a little bit of a bonus in certain situations as well. But even if it didn't have that, I would totally say for some things of like, oh yeah, you want to just fail against this? Absolutely. You think that makes sense in this scene? Fucking let's go for it. And in D&D is the same way. You want to go into a zone of truth and you want to just voluntarily fail it? Absolutely. Hell yeah. That means that you really want to show everybody that you're truthful. All that kind of stuff. Like, it adds so much for character and character building when you have these scenes of characters that just say, yeah, no, I'm failing this. I'm taking this hit. I need to. Or I'm letting this spell go over me. It's better that it does so than if it didn't. And of course, something like this barbarian teleporting thing, yeah, if I want to be teleported away with my friend, yeah, why would I want to save against that? Absolutely. Let me. All I got is, hey, look out, a weapon. Yeah, fair. Now I kind of wish there was a barbarian that got bonuses for purposefully failing saves. Face the full fireball for an improved rage. That would be cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Actually feels like it's going to interact with several aspects of the game where if something is happening to you that you're like, oh, this actually would be beneficial, or maybe you just don't like your character anymore and want to willingly fail the saving throw. I don't know. You do you.
Can you voluntarily fail a death save? You lose the will to live?
According to the rules, I can be
Sure.
like, I just want to fail this death saving throw.
You know what? Why not? Yeah. Why not? Absolutely. I see no reason why you shouldn't allow that. That's fine. Block the fireball with your face. Exactly.
Yeah. Got my new character ready. So yeah, it could other than that, it could interact with some really interesting mechanics in the game.
On the other hand, if you don't
It's a joke other than that, but no, legitimately, I see no reason why you shouldn't be allowed to. That's fine.
to fail that saving throw, you could re-roll it with Heroic Inspiration. Inspiration is now called Heroic Inspiration, and just as before, you either have Inspiration or you don't. Instead of Inspiration, though, giving you advantage or disadvantage on a roll, Heroic Inspiration is now very explicitly a full-blown re-roll. And so if you get a roll, you don't like it, Inspiration, boom, fix that roll.
If you have advantage or disadvantage, just keep in mind that reroll actually only applies to one die. You don't get to reroll both. But usually, if you have disadvantage, you reroll either way, you're going to reroll the lowest one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to reroll the lower one and hope that, it improves it.
Is this what hero points were? / what Pathfinder has for something? I think they have that too. I think this is a thing that's now just you give it out in, I think, action points as well. That was something else. Something like this. I'm like getting a real vague notion of what it is. Pathfinder's had it since 1st edition. There you go. Wow. If only D&D was more like Pathfinder, everybody said. Wow, Wizards of the Coast said. I guess let's become more like Pathfinder. Crazy. Whoa. Just go play Pathfinder 2. Is that... Is that not... I mean, come on.
Also, really just interesting to note, humans start their day with inspiration. So if your DM keeps forgetting to give out heroic inspiration, just play a human and give it to yourself.
And then take the lucky feat, because it's an origin feat.
Yeah.
And show halflings who really are the lucky ones.
Oh, God, we still have lucky. Okay, so I'm already seeing that everybody's going to be playing humans now because you just auto get the inspiration. Like, mechanically, if inspiration is now just that, and mechanically, if heroic inspiration is just given out because the DM goes, hey, yo, you did this cool. Let's go, now there's, like, even more of a reason for you to just include this inspiration thing. I guess, I don't know, the inspiration, so back in the day of 5e, since we're now past that, I guess, we're at 5.5, inspiration was given because, and they listed reasons of like, oh, you want to give somebody something because they deserve it, basically. You want to give them advantage on one roll by giving them inspiration. You either have it or you don't, all that kind of stuff, right? Again, not a bad concept, but it seemed so subjective to me. And now we also now have a mechanical reason why you just get it. So now it's a lot less subjective, but also still has that subjective element. Feels weird to me. But then again, I was never one for doing the inspiration thing. That was always something that I was like, I don't know. I like that you just continue doing the things that you do and all that. Like, if there's a mechanical, you just get an X amount of inspiration, quote unquote, every day, like we've seen for action points and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's something that I've always just had some issue with just because of how subjective it was, I guess. Why only humans? Because humans get it inherently every day, as he just said. So why not always play a human so you can always have the mechanical bonus every single day? It's like purely mechanical. Not even for flavor. Just mechanically. People are going to be playing humans a lot. Just play a human, they say. Bad time to be variety right now. True. Back in the day of a month ago. Yeah, exactly. On a lot of things being borrowed from Pathfinder. It's amazing how they came to this conclusion. Just slapped the D&D name on it and everybody is celebrating. Yeah, everybody seems to forget that Pathfinder 2e had this. It's crazy. Don't halflings get it too? They might. Okay, so halflings and all that. He's talking about the lucky feat, which halflings could just have inherently, and then you could take the lucky feat. The lucky feat was always one of those things that it was just like, cool. I don't want that. Thank you. I don't want anybody to have that, though. But that's just me.
Once.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you were following the Unearthed Arcana playtests, you might have noticed that there was a bit of a rocky road over what was going to happen to exhaustion.
Oh, okay. Oh, exhaustion. Oh, no. Oh, have they changed it? Do you get it a lot more? Please tell me you get it a lot more. I fucking hope so. Exhaustion's great. Or it used to be. I think 5.5 halflings don't have halfling luck anymore. Well, then, ooh. Guess they're taking the lucky feat. Wow.
So it has changed.
But not in the way we thought it was going to change.
But also kind of in the way we thought it was going to change, but also not. So, exhaustion is still 6 levels of exhaustion,
Good.
and you still die at exhaustion level 6.
Good.
However, instead of every level of exhaustion having a different effect, you now just have a penalty to all d20 tests equal to twice your exhaustion level.
Okay. So exhaustion, the condition of exhaustion isn't something that fucking, like, actually makes it so it's harder and harder for you to do things. It's now just, you do a little bit less. Not a fan of that change, me either. Are you okay, bro? No, I'm not, Timothy. No, thank you. No. Exhaustion is sick in 5e. Exhaustion is great. I like the exhaustion table. Let me tell you what exhaustion does from the original exhaustion table, okay? I actually really like it because utilizing exhaustion in homebrew stuff was fantastic to do as an addition to things. Alright. So in 5e, exhaustion would, at your first level of exhaustion, would give you disadvantage on ability checks, which means your strength, dex, constitution, wisdom, all that kind of stuff, which includes skills. So you have disadvantage. It makes everything way harder to do, okay? Second level exhaustion, your speed is halved. You get so tired that you move at half speed. And you still have those disadvantages. Third, disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. Way harder to hit things, way harder to dodge things, way harder to tank things from fortitude saves, way harder to get out of mind-bending effects. Okay? Fourth level exhaustion, your hit point maximum is halved. You now only have half HP until you lose some exhaustion. Fifth level, your speed is reduced to 0. You're so fucking tired you can't move anymore. And then 6th level, you die. Okay? Now, exhaustion is super fun to play around with. If you actually utilize it well in 5th edition, it was super fun to play around with, and there were reasons why in my personal magical exertion table that I made, some of those consequences you would get from utilizing more than your spell slots had. So, like, if you wanted to cast a 5th level spell, and you had no more 5th level slots or anything below that or really anything for 5th level at all, and you wanted to utilize it, you could potentially roll on this magical exertion table, and one of the things was you get 3 levels of exhaustion, but your spell still goes off. Like, you're able to do it, but you get this trade-off, right? Which makes it so that you're fucked for the rest of the fight. It makes it so that everything is way harder after, but it's a desperation kind of thing. And exhaustion being used as something that's gained from the weather effects of being in cold weather and all that kind of stuff, like having exhaustion after not sleeping for a long time, though it was way easier to do that one because it was 10 at the very start, and then I think it was 12 or 24 hours, it was like 10 plus 2, and then plus another 2, and then, like, it was really easy to just not get exhausted if you didn't sleep. So, but, like, things like that would utilize exhaustion, and if you had creative ways of giving exhaustion, maybe a monster can give exhaustion with, like, a poison of some sort, that they inject with an attack and everything. Instead of doing a lot of damage, they would inject you with poison that would give you a point of exhaustion, right? Like, so many things would then, like, oh no, I can only get rid of exhaustion by healing it by a lesser or greater restoration spell, I believe. I think it was lesser and greater. And then also in going to bed, you get 1 level healed back after every long rest. So, like, it's hard to get rid of. It's something that you actually have to contend with if you put it in your games. And it was really cool. And this now just says 2 times your exhaustion level. So, or was it 2 or 4? Now I need to know. Hold on.
Instead of every level of exhaustion having a different effect, you now just have a penalty to all d20 tests equal to twice your exhaustion level.
Twice your exhaustion level. Level 1, -2. Level 2, -4. Like, yes, it does get cumulative, but exhaustion was so much more deadly before. So much more of a problem before. Like, I don't care that it could make you bedridden for a few days. Magical healing does exist, and if it was something that you had access to for greater restoration spells, you could be doing 1 of those each day as well. So you could get away with 2 of them. Hell, you make it so it's expensive, you make it so that it's another thing that people have to spend money for to actually, like, do things with their money, so that they can spend money for a healer to get rid of exhaustion levels. Like, it has so much potential. Why not keep it the same? So tired you can't move anymore. I've been there before. Yeah. Being in cold weather makes you exhausted. Whoops, whoopsie. Yeah, you have to make I think it's a fortitude saving throw or something, and it gets harder as you continue being in cold weather, right? So I have insomnia, if you're wondering. That's fair, yeah. I've had it so that I've been so tired that I can't move as well. I've had my dealings with not being able to sleep. Did Constitution ever affect exhaustion other than hit points in other editions? I feel like I'm misremembering that. I don't remember exhaustion ever being a thing before 5e, but then again, I might be wrong. I don't remember it at all, but who knows? They needed to increase what gave exhaustion instead. Yes! Like, nothing gave exhaustion / there were only very certain cases that we had to put in things that would give exhaustion. So, anyway. So they've fucked up exhaustion. They fucked up one of my favorite rules, actually. Like, legitimately, I think exhaustion is one of my favorite rules from 5e.
You also get a penalty to your speed equal to 5 times your exhaustion level. So I actually think this is really smooth for exhaustion.
Yeah.
It means that it's going to suck for your movement and everything that you try to do. But I actually think that's a really mechanically smooth way of dealing with exhaustion.
So this now is one of the few places in the rules where a penalty does exist. and a penalty that is kind of independent of proficiency or dice or anything like that, because this stacks with disadvantage now. So exhaustion used to be pretty punishing because once you came in at like 1 or 2 levels of exhaustion, you were now having penalties to all your ability checks, all of your attack rolls, and it got pretty rough. The thing that's actually quite dastardly about exhaustion now, though, is that it's coming in with a penalty to all your D20 tests, which is ability scores, attack rolls, and saving throws.
Yeah. Oh, but it used to do that in the other ones. But it made more sense to me because as it got worse, then it affected everything. It's not like it does it right from the beginning. But, like, at the same time, I understand why it would be all the way from the beginning. But disadvantage on ability checks is everything besides your saving throws and your attack rolls. It's not until you get to the 3rd level of exhaustion that you actually do get those disadvantages on attack rolls and saving throws. Like, and that's until you lose it. And, like, I'm fine with it being in addition to, but this is just on top of everything. It's always going to be the case that you have this disadvantage, and you can utilize other things to give yourself advantage to make it straight rolls and stuff, obviously. But I don't know. Exhaustion itself from 5 seemed like it worked better because I don't know about 5. So 5 times your level of exhaustion to your movement speed, sure. Once you hit 3rd level of exhaustion, you then just have half speed, basically, for most characters. But I don't know, man. Speed being halved just from the 2nd level just kind of makes it so that you just don't want to get exhaustion, you know? You don't want to get exhaustion at all, but also, for me at least, I think that this is, like, way easier to deal with in the sense of having a -2 is so much easier to deal with than disadvantage. I don't know. Maybe they made it so that it's way more manageable from the beginning to make it so that people will utilize it more, maybe? I don't know, but it just doesn't... I don't know, man. Just bring back regular exhaustion. I think they also got rid of the barbarian subclass that gave exhaustion. Either that or they changed it so it doesn't give exhaustion anymore. I'm not sure, but if exhaustion is so easy to not get still, then no, they didn't get rid of the subclass. They changed it so it didn't give the exhaustion. There you go. So if it's still super easy to not get, though, then they've changed nothing, really. Are you gonna see it a lot? I don't know.
Interestingly enough, this doesn't affect death saving throws because the rules don't specify that the death saving throw is a D20 test.
Yeah, they never say that.
So in the new rules, a D20 test is anything that is an attack roll, an ability score, or saving throw. And most of the time when you roll a D20, you are making a D20 test, and therefore all the things that apply to D20 tests apply. But not all the time, apparently, because death saving throw doesn't specify, and it's kind of unclear where initiative lands in this. Yeah, because if a death saving throw was...
I would say that initiative applies from exhaustion. Death saving throws don't. I don't think they ever have, and I don't think they should. So, why would barbarians care about being tired, I guess? Well, they should. I mean, they still get tired, right? Like, it's just that the actual exhaustion stuff from the exhaustion table from 5e made it so they would have to care. But now, I don't know. It doesn't seem as debilitating.
As a D20 test, then it would be bad.
Yeah.
For exhaustion. But on the flip side, if a death saving throw isn't a D20 test, then things like bless and Paladin's auras don't apply to it. And normally, like a D20 test, so like that means that there's no penalties that could ever happen to it, but there's not a lot of ways to add to it either.
I don't think they ever did, but I might be wrong. I really don't. Like, for death saving throws, I never thought that they should get advantages and such unless specifically specified. But I don't remember there being anything that really did specifically specify them, and I don't think that when you're down that anything should really give or take away from them, necessarily. Like, only divine intervention would really be something that I'd be like, yeah, okay, a god literally has made it so it's easier for you to not die, you know? And they've taken a special interest in you, specifically, person. And they're able to give you that little bit of divinity in order to make it so that you don't die, right? So,
I mean, the good news here is it would be so devastating to get exhaustion level 5 and then get knocked down to 0 hit points, and then you're just like, what do I do? So probably for the best that it doesn't affect that, because that's just extra punishing.
Yeah, exhaustion level 5 is pretty brutal. -10.
Yeah.
Everything that you're doing. And also, your movement speed is reduced by 25. So you're down to 5 feet of movement.
So I'm usually exhaustion.
oh, okay, so you don't even go to 0 speed anymore. You just, you can still move. I don't know, man. -10, At high enough levels, it probably doesn't matter. Like, disadvantage will always be in play. Always. Where -10, I don't know. I guess technically, like, mathematically, it is worse. Because, like, advantage and disadvantage are, like, +5 and -5, technically. Right? But, I don't know.
Level 5 on my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
just how I
You
live.
just shuffle around,
I
barely
shuffle.
do anything. Yeah. Incidentally enough, with removing exhaustion, you only remove 1 exhaustion level on a long rest as well.
Right.
That's always been the case.
Yeah, so keep up with your sleep schedule, because if you incur a sleep debt, it can actually take weeks to get out of it.
And also, greater restoration and lesser restoration, unless they've changed those. Please tell me about them. They should be in your PHB. Did you look into that? Am I crazy? Are they not conditions that were before that you could am I insane? Freezing or scorching temperatures. Special condition. Provided that the creature has also ingested some food and drink after a long rest, they do it by 1. No, you're not insane? Okay. Doesn't say it on the thing, but it's a condition, so you would assume you would get 1 anyway. You know how busy I am? I don't have time to be helping randos out with their death saves. True. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe talk about how those work. I don't know.
In both real life and in D&D.
It's true. So I think that wraps up our 10 biggest changes to the rules.
Yeah.
We will be doing another video where we specify each class and what the biggest changes to each class was. I think that's going to be another exciting look at how things have changed. I think most of those are going to be for the better, but this was a look at just the core rules. We see that even though 5th edition has remained...
It's funny that they never said that there was a big change in the feats, that they are now part of the core set. They never said that they're not optional anymore. As far as I remember, I might have missed it. But they didn't ever specify that they aren't an optional rule anymore. They seem to be part of the entire core of the game again. So, Well, I don't know.
Relatively the same when you're playing it at the table. You're going to feel, hey, I'm playing 5th edition D&D. But you will want to pay attention to these subtle rules changes that are going to impact the flow.
I feel like the weapon mastery thing, weapons having those masteries is like such a monumental change that isn't just for the classes. It is literally across the board for most classes, if not all classes. I don't remember at this moment, but it is something that should have been talked about, especially by these guys who are very combat oriented, to talk about the weapon properties basically that make it so that you can do so much shit. Like, what are we not talking about that? Why aren't we talking about that? That is the core stuff. That won't change. Well, that won't change if it's a different class. They still have the access to these masteries. I mean, certain classes won't have access to certain weapons, obviously, but overall, those weapons are there. And what they can do and how they can synergize and everything. Why aren't we talking about that? That's, like, really important. Right? Feel like you should have just made a new edition. Dude, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? I'm fine with 5e being updated, because 5e had groundwork that was there that you can update to now be what it is currently. There's some things in there, like the streamline stuff is fine. We just give it more rules and such as they have to make it so that it's less sparse in certain areas, right? But if these are the major changes, only these, and I know that they aren't just these. Obviously, you have the stuff that are the classes and such, but legitimately the weapon mastery is being its own thing, something that actually does affect everybody, you know, like that stuff is something that you can like point to be an addition that is good for 5e, but also something that is absolutely major. But other than that, I mean, I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel like there was enough that was changed necessarily from these 10 specific things that qualifies this as much more than just it's a reprinting of 5, right? It's errata. That's what it is. That is what it is. Which is fine. Again, it's fine. But it's not a new edition, really. It's just 5.5. I don't know.
And the
Oh,
balance.
I'm no more insane than the rest of us? Nah, maybe. I don't know. Not more insane than Verity.
Of the game.
There's also a bunch of changes to many of the spells and the feats and other player options that we'll be getting into in future videos as well. But if there's another change to the rules of the game, so again, not a class, not a spell, not a subclass, not a species,
Not a feat.
not a feat, player option, but the rules that you've happened to find, and you think it's even bigger than one of these changes that we've listed out here, we'd love to hear about that.
So let us know if you find any.
Okay, so they've sectioned it off from being not a player option. It is a general rule, I guess. That's what we've determined. I don't know, man. As we said for 5, the PHB was all you really needed if you really wanted to play it and run it. This time around, I guess it would probably be the same case, but you gotta make it so that you can make more stuff on them. I get that. Character stuff class stuff specifically, I understand not including, but again, the weapon masteries aren't necessarily specific to classes. Okay. I don't know.
Secret rules changes that it would be really cool if the comments section below had like
Mm-hmm.
people showing other rules changes so that people who are watching this video can then go to the comments and be like, oh, hey, here's some other things I should be aware of in the new book.
Yep.
So let us know about any changes you catch in the comments below.
The videos that we create on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the work that we do here on YouTube, please consider becoming a patron of our show. The links are right down below.
And you can check out our adventures in the world of Drakenheim, which airs Tuesday evenings right here on YouTube. You can check out all the previous episodes right up over here.
And we've got plenty more coverage of the new 2024 D&D rulebooks right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like
You
this
do?
video, and ring
Already?
that bell so that you never miss an episode
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
in the dungeon.
When did this come out? I don't know. That's it? Why such a short video? It was 20 minutes. I feel like they could have gone into it a little bit more. I don't know. And again, the feats, I don't know, man. From my understanding, 2E was pretty similar to 1E. I'm not sure how the change from 5E to whatever they're calling the new one compares to that. I would have to look at it. But I think you're right from 1E to 2E, but like technically third 3.5 was never technically third. I'm sorry, never technically fourth. They called 3.5 3.5 because it was still third. They just did the same. It's the same way that third and 3.5 is, as far as I'm aware. This is literally built off of 5E's like core rules. They didn't change the entirety of the rules really. So whatever justification we have for third and 3.5, it's this for 5th and 5.5 as far as I'm aware. But anyway. So video-wise it's informative. But we could have probably combined the feats things. Or we could have talked more about feats. I don't know. I don't. I understand dividing player options and general things. I get that, but I don't know. When you want to go into more detail on something, make those videos, so the classes and such. But the feats in themselves, I feel like they could just go into to an extent, and then they can revisit them, right? Like, rehashing the rules is not necessarily a bad thing to do over multiple videos. If you have to refer back to something that you've already talked about, it doesn't mean that, I mean, hell, it's better for you to drive people to watch those other videos that you've covered them more in depth, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing, technically? Supposed to be doing, quote unquote, on YouTube, is telling people to go watch more of our content and directing them to more of our content when we're going more into detail about things, I guess. Because you could do a brief summary of something enough to understand it. Whatever that thing was that they were talking about before in the first video, whatever thing he talked about, I don't know what it was, and I don't know if he explained it to me. So, it's just, I don't know. I'm just, whenever there's whenever it doesn't feel like there's enough information that I've gotten about anything, it just feels like I've wasted my time, you know? As a guy that watched a 3-day-long video all at once, I guess my sense of time is off. That's fair. No, it is short in comparison to a lot of more in-depth stuff, absolutely. I feel like more was left out than what was addressed. Yeah. Yeah, this is poor content creation, which is a weird thing to say. You could have had more content, but instead you condensed it down poorly into one video. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my feeling on it. It just, like, going more into depth about something to inform people about how things are, and, again, saving the completely in-depth stuff for specific videos if you want to, you know, making mention of them so that you can tease it to people and then say, but we'll go into a video that's more in-depth about that. We're just covering broad terms and subjects here until we get to those videos. Like, that's something that you could be doing, right? And that's something that people do. So, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be judging that. I don't know. But I'm going to. I only stopped watching that video to sleep. Oh, the one for 3 days. Hell yeah. I guess 1E to 2E was under TSR, and 3 to 3.5 was under WotC. So you have two different companies deciding what to name the editions. True. That's true. Anyway, that's all the videos that we've done today. Hey, we did it. Good job, everybody. You made it. Oh! Yeah, overall, it's not that, like, I've got a basic understanding of a few things. I'm just disappointed about exhaustion, really, and that's the only thing that I've gotten from that video, really, because, exhaustion's cool from 5e, so what are we doing? But, yeah. Anyway, we're gonna move on to comments, and then we'll be done for the evening. So, let's do that. Hold on. As you can see, it's just been me this whole time today. Aiden and Boo were both unable to make it, unfortunately. But that's okay. Alright. Let's go to comments. Where are my comments? There they are. Okay. Looks like we better yoink the 5e exhaustion rules into 5.5. I think so. Got some more plot hooks in the lore coming. Hell yeah. Alright. So, here we go. Comment time. Comment time. Timothy. On 193, avoiding terrible role-playing and losing. Here we go. Hello, bros. Hello. New lore. Tournament semifinals. Bloodhook versus Cyrus Alabaster. Announcer. Pardon me, everyone. King Cornell has not made his way to the arena yet, so his match with Star Ruby the Ogre has been pushed back. Sir Cyrus Alabaster versus Bloodhook the Orc Princess will take its place. Fighters enter. When Cyrus walked onto the sand, the whole arena exploded with noise. His armor shining in the sun, roses tossed toward him. Over on the other side, Bloodhook was glaring forward, a short mace in one hand, clad in simple leather armor. Bloodhook pointed her mace at Cyrus. Bloodhook, abandon all hope, ye who challenge me. Cyrus started to smile, but before he could say something, the orc charged at the paladin, tackling him to the ground. Before the bell sounded, Cyrus found himself with a loud, pregnant orc on top of him, struggling to stop a fist and mace head from cracking his skull open. It took everything he had to throw Bloodhook away. Cyrus scrambled to grab his shield, getting it just in time to block another 5 mace shots. He dropped down to one knee, blocking for dear life, as Bloodhook punched, kicked, and swung her mace at full force, screaming the whole time. His sword was a few feet away. The shield was slowly getting dented. Trying to gain some space, Cyrus uppercut with the tip of his shield, knocking the orc back, using the shield as a makeshift club, pounding forward. Bloodhook didn't block much, taking the hits head on. Bloodhook, is that the best you got, coward? Bloodhook grabbed the shield, started a tug of war with it. The orc quickly overpowered the paladin, taking the shield and smacking Cyrus in the face hard with it. Reeling from the shot, blood dripping from his forehead, he fell backwards, his ears ringing. He tossed sand in Bloodhook's eyes, finally halting the attack for the time being. The paladin dragged himself to his feet, seeing threes. What? He then shot a fireball at Bloodhook, knocking her back, far back. The orc's leather armor was lit on fire by the spell. She quickly took it off before it burned her too much. Cyrus stumbled to his sword, picking it up and taking a stance. Bloodhook charged once again, this time bare-handed. Cyrus sidestepped another tackle, countering with a slash to the orc's back, but the orc didn't stop turning on her heel, punches still flying. The two went back and forth for about 10 minutes, Cyrus slashing and Bloodhook blocking the shots with her arms. The paladin was starting to get tired, his shots getting weaker, but Bloodhook wasn't slowing down. Large cuts all over her body, but she acted like they weren't there. Almost out of options, Cyrus went for one more big move. He cast his Supernova Blade spell. His sword glowed bright orange. He brought the weapon down at the orc with all the power he could. The blade sliced deep into Bloodhook's forearm, her skin bubbling and burning, but she didn't even flinch. Cyrus' eyes opened wide, frozen with fear. This move killed dragons and demons, but this orc took it like nothing? Cyrus, how? Bloodhook, I'm proper hard. Rearing back her fist and punching the paladin square in the chest, he flew back, landing flat on his back. The sound of the punch rung out so loud, some people covered their ears. The paladin's chest plate was completely caved in. His sword was still stuck in her arm. She pulled the sword out, blood falling to the ground. Cyrus rolled to his side, spitting up blood. Bloodhook, come on, you so-called hero. You look more like a soft worm from here. We orcs fight with no fear, unlike what I saw in your eyes. The masked ogre and pink dragon would be harder than you, I can tell. Plenty of dragons and ogres have lived with us orcs in the past. They can hang. What's wrong with you? Cyrus, enough. I'm not dead yet. Painfully pulling himself back up, walking up to the orc. Standing face to face, ripping off his broken armor. The whole crowd was deathly silent, so much you could hear a pin drop. Bloodhook, hit me like a big boy, Mr. Hero. Don't waste my time, damn it. Cyrus punched as hard as he could manage, almost falling again while doing so, after which Bloodhook spit out a tooth. Bloodhook punched back in kind. They matched punches over and over, Cyrus barely staying on his feet, looking more like a drunk person in a tavern than a knight by this point. The fight was scaring the crowd, with someone yelling, "Stop the fight!" Bloodhook grabbed Cyrus by the neck and started punching again. She reared back one more time, but before she could let loose, the orc doubled over in pain, dropping the paladin and falling. Bloodhook, no, not now. Ugh. It took Cyrus a minute to realize what was happening. Cyrus, stop the fight. She's giving birth. She can't fight. Stop this. The bell soon sounded. Announcer, Bloodhook can no longer fight. Cyrus Alabaster wins. Aww. Helpers came out among all the noise from the crowd. Cyrus followed the orc to the back rooms, passing passing Cornell in the hallway. Cornell, whoa, looks like I missed all the fun. Or I missed the fun. Bloodhook grabbed Cyrus by the arm. Bloodhook, this isn't over, hero. Orcs always finish their battles, and if you run, my clan and I will hunt you down. You can't beat me. Mark my words. Well, that's all I got. Have a nice day. Thank you. Damn, I wanted her to win. That would have been way cool. Anyway, thank you for the comment. Seeing threes is in triple vision. We still hadn't quite gotten into the groove of things in the 2 sessions we posted this time, but it happened, so it's there. Okay. I learned orcs have a charge ability, so actually made the fight accurate. They have a charge ability? Which orcs? Seeing threes is seeing doubles, but worse. True. Coral! Oh my god, it's Rick Grimes. Wow. Coral is pretty. True. Anyway. Alright. And then Chin on that episode as well says, roll call. Verity here playing Sarika the Elven Sorceress, Chara playing Shauna the Halfling Barbarian, Entropy starring as Tara the Human Fighter. I remember. Sure, Entropy, said Verity. So I hear about how we just beat you up last time, Verity, Chara noted. Wow. Yeah, well, I didn't want to fight her, said Verdi. She might have gotten hurt, you know? I've got to be careful where I swing these pythons around. Right, Entropy rolled. Just start the session, said Verdi. Oh, I'm glad of this confirmation currently on screen that sometimes people like my comments, but YouTube doesn't believe them. Oh, that was me. Hi. It's always me. I like every comment that you guys post, and then I heart them. That's what I do. Anyway, you'll see Bloodhook again, I promise you that. Good. She better beat the shit out of Cyrus later, or something. She better fucking get what she better win everything. She deserves it. She's proper hard. Anyway. The landscape that stretched out before the party was daunting, to say the least. Stepping out of the underground ruins had placed them high on a rocky ledge, overlooking a vast wasteland below an unbroken sheet of dark, roiling clouds. Stony, barren hills dominated most of the nearby landscape, though this gave way to what looked like a forest of dark trees in the far distance to the north. This was not the verdant woodland that they had initially entered the ruins from. Teyra was the first to turn, thinking to go back into those ruins in hope that they might be able to re-emerge again somewhere less inhospitable, only to see that the entrance had vanished. This revelation did little to lighten the silent shock that had fallen over everyone. Wow, Veridi, Char said. That's some shoddy work right there. Hey, it's not my fault, Veridi replied. Something messed me up. Sure, Veridi. Yeah, the thumbs up button is lit up, but the one isn't there. It's like on my side too. Happens a lot on YouTube in general. Oh. Cool. Alright, well, you know. They fucked up likes and dislikes a long time ago, so, you know, what are we supposed to expect at this point, you know? We'd better get down we'd better get down there and head for that forest, Shauna finally suggested. Doesn't look too inviting, Teyra noted. Best chance we've got if we want to survive here. Maybe we can find a stream to follow. If we're lucky, that'll take us to a river, and maybe that'll lead us to some kind of settlement. True. The group agreed to this plan and began scaling their way down the crag. For the most part, the rock face was broke up enough to provide a series of stable ledges they could climb down, though some of these were thin enough to only function as handholds. At one such point, Teyra lost her grip and fell, crashing hard onto the ledge below. Despite the mishap, the group made it the rest of the way to the ground and began their trek northward. Even when you set up an easy climb check, someone can still fail it, Veridi observed. True. See, that's kind of that's the kind of random shit that wouldn't happen in a normal story, Entropy noted. Not like that, at least. Too sudden. Breaks up the flow. Doesn't feel right narratively. Yeah, well, that's an RPG for you, said Veridi. All I'm saying is, it's not gonna happen in the anime. Wow, nice. But also, hey, if you describe it in a way that, you know, that she didn't just lose her grip, but some of it just came crumbling away because some of it had been eroded too much because of, I don't know, the rain or something. I don't know. Anyway, as they proceeded, Sarika and Shauna spotted movement out of the corners of their eyes and soon realized that they were being tailed by something on the rocks above. Now watching for this, they quickly made out the small forms of a large band of goblins, which were moving to encircle them. Immediately, the three adventurers broke into a full run. In response, the goblins stopped trying to hide and immediately pursued at full speed. From somewhere, a war horn could be heard sounding off. The adventurers ran for several minutes, occasionally arrows falling around them. Just as they neared the mouth of the ravine, a pair of hobgoblins stepped out of the rocks ahead of them, raising their javelins. Teyra was quick to respond, stepping in front of Sarika to shield her from the missiles and holding her polearm in a defensive stance. Just in time, too, as the first hobgoblin to move threw his javelin at the unarmored elf, and Teyra was quick to bait it out of the air. Meanwhile, Shauna raised her Morningstar and charged the other hobgoblin, but the enemy fended off her heavy attack with his shield. Before Shauna could regain her momentum, her target stepped away from her and threw his javelin at Sarika. but Teyra knocked that missile out of the air as well. Sarika took aim at the same hobgoblin and loosed an arrow, which only embedded itself in the enemy's shield. Glad Bloodhook made an impact? Yeah. We've taken to introducing ourselves and our characters in every session in case someone else comes along and reads it. Fair enough. Why don't you take 10 on climbing down? You know? Anyway. With the threat of the javelins out of the way, Teyra charged and swung her polearm at the first hobgoblin, but the Guisarm hit only the enemy's shield. She hit it with the guy's arm? Chara asked. No, Chara. Guys, sorry, is it guy's arm? Is that what it's supposed to? I thought it was Guisarm. Am I crazy? Hold on. Science. And by science, I mean... Why did that do that? That's awesome. This might be really loud. My apologies.
Guy's arm.
Oh, it is guy's arm.
Guy's arm.
Oh, excuse me. Why did I get Guisarm from something else? Anyway, guy's arm. Well, that's easier to remember, I guess. That hobgoblin took a step forward and attacked Teyra with his sword, but the human was able to deftly dodge and block his attacks. Shauna once again pressed her attack against her chosen opponent, but was still unable to land a meaningful blow, though she still held the hobgoblin's attack off in turn. This stalemate was allowing the pursuing goblin band to grow ever closer. Fully aware of this danger, Sarika began to move again. As she ran straight through the melee, both hobgoblins took a swing at her, but were too distracted fighting Teyra and Shauna to hit her. My phone went off. Why did that happen? Nobody should be texting me. Ah. It was a email? That's exciting. An email to our email? Sorry, this is unprecedented. People don't email us anymore. That's not a thing that happens. Hold on. My apologies. This is something that... We'll look into that later. Anyway. Always appreciate an email. Thank you. You got mail. True. What was I? Teyra and her opponent continued their fight, still unable to penetrate each other's defenses, though the human was being pressed slowly but surely back into the ravine. Shauna still stood firm, but continued to make no progress against her opponent. After having put some distance between herself and the fight, Sarika turned and released the last of her magic missiles at the hobgoblin fighting Teyra, finally inflicting some injury on that enemy. Teyra's own attacks remained ineffective, but the hobgoblin broke off from her to chase the elf. Shauna and her opponent still achieved little against each other, though the halfling was now edging her way around the opponent. Deciding she could accomplish little more here, Sarika simply broke into a full run again. Teyra charged and swung her guy's arm at her opponent's feet from behind, but missed again. With the mage in full flight, the hobgoblin turned on Teyra again, but still couldn't land a hit. The goblin warband was now dangerously close, and Shauna was well aware. Though it was a blow to her pride, the halfling turned and ran, with the hobgoblin's final swing at her, unsurprisingly missing. Needing a clear path for a full run, Teyra pushed past her opponent, who took advantage of the opening this created to attack, and who predictably missed that attack. Predictably, sure. The hobgoblin charged after her, but she turned with her guy's arm and swept his feet out from under him. Finally, Entropy grumbled, maybe we should be using action points. This is definitely a good case for them right here, Chara agreed. Letting Shauna run, the other hobgoblin charged at Terra too, but another sweep of her polearm sent him to the ground as well. With that, Terra joined her allies in running. This was, of course, only a temporary advantage, as both hobgoblins were soon up and in pursuit. Over the course of the chase, however, the hobgoblins slowly but surely lost ground. By the time the three adventurers were too winded to continue running, the pursuers had lost sight of them. And scene, said Verity. We'll end things off here this time so it doesn't just keep going on and on. See you again soon, everyone. There you go. Thanks. See, miss. Oh, yeah, I guess so. We might have set the DC too high for Terra to take 10 there, and her climb check with her armor is pretty bad. Fair. Alright. Well, thank you for that. And now we go to Timothy's comment from last week's episode, problems with the 2024 classes and requiring foraging. Okay. Timothy says, hello, bros. New lore. Titled, The Armor Shines No More. In the back room of the arena, Cyrus Alabaster was flat on his back, on a bed. His wounds from the last battle scabbing over, pain flowing all around his body. Excuse me. He then heard the voice of Targasus ring out in his head. Targasus, I hope those broken bones were part of your plan. Do you know how close you came to losing your life? My family is torn to enough pieces, don't you think? Cyrus, do you know that you could just come into the room to talk instead of wherever the hell you are right now? Targasus, if you open your eyes, you will see that I am here. Fool. The battered paladin slowly opened his eyes and saw a weasel sitting by the window. Cyrus, ah, yes, I see. That form you love so much. And to answer your question, yes, I knew I was close to death. I made a mistake. I never faced orcs before. I will not let that mistake happen again. The power of orcs is quite amazing. You were sloppy. You never had a true challenge until now. That is why you had to be saved by Bloodhook's incoming offspring. Is joining the Knights of Bahamut worth spilling more alabaster blood? No true challenge. I will not sit here and be insulted by my own great-grandfather. You can barely stand, let alone sit. I defeated a full-grown red dragon to save Talathorn. I fought for a full year against a demon army. How have I not been challenged? Targasus. Nonsense. Demons are mindless meat sacks. Hacking through thousands of them is hardly a challenge for a paladin. And it took you a whole day to kill that red dragon. Waiting for it to get tired before being able to strike the killing blow. Anything else you want to add? Cyrus opened his mouth to say something, but thought twice about it. That's what I thought. And now you have an angry orc to deal with. When orcs set their minds on something, they never stop. How will you do your job at the IMO with that knife hanging over your head? We can't have orc warbands breaking down our door every other day. Cyrus, I will handle it. I promise. Soon after the tournament. Targasus, I should hope so, because I'm not cleaning this mess up. I already have enough to deal with. Talathorn is losing his mind and with worry over this weapon. He is convinced Cornell is trying to make. He's been slacking at his job on account of these rumors. When Talathorn says something, it's usually right. How can it just be a rumor? I don't think he is wrong. It makes sense as an idea Cornell would have come up with. And I know Talathorn well. He doesn't act like this without good reason. Unfortunately, the first and second chair of the South Branch both think they are just faceless rumors, and now I must attend a meeting to figure out what to do with Talathorn. I have a feeling it will last days. When will the meeting happen? It will take place after the tournament, of course. It will be such a pain. Targasus then turned back into human form. He started holding out his hand as vines grew around his arm. Fruit quickly sprouted from the vines, and he started to eat them. Cyrus, what are they planning to do to Talathorn? Targasus, we shall see. Anything can happen. But I think I will take my leave. The next match will be starting soon. as he walked out of the room. Well, that's all I got. Have a nice day. Thank you, Timothy. Cool. Wouldn't be so bad under normal circumstances, probably, but writing it out like that, it just feels repetitive to keep missing, especially since it takes a lot longer to write than to read. True. Cyrus got the riot act. Yeah. Mindless meat sacks. Hey, I resemble that remark. Nice. Alright. Now we've got big long comment from Shin. Potentially. We shall see. Here goes session 3 of Verity's thing. Entropy. It's me and Char's thing too. Amusingly enough, foraging came up briefly in this one, though it was really just handled as a survival check. Anyway, this turns out to be a terror in 2 parts, so they will follow below. Alrighty. Excuse me. Hold on. It's still warm. I want to drink warm water. It's either hot water in tea or not at all. So I guess I'm making some more tea. Give me a second while I put my tea bags here into my mug. And then we will read. Alright. Starting a new session, Chara asked. I'm not done putting the tea bags in. I'm just getting set. It's been a few days, Verity said. Feels like time for a new one. Let's just go, Entropy said. Once again, Verity is playing Sarika, the elven sorceress. Entropy is playing Tayra, the human fighter. And I'm playing Shauna, the halfling barbarian, Chara noted. Though there were no signs of pursuit, Tayra, Shauna, and Sarika kept moving, wanting to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the goblin tribe. Excuse me. Could have been heating the water the whole time. Whoops. Continuing to travel for the rest of the day eventually brought them down to the forest. Up close, it seemed like a gloomy place. Dark branches twisting above and blocking much of the light that had made it through the heavy clouds above. Though life did survive here. Following their plan, the party kept their eyes out for any sign of flowing water, whether a stream, a river, or even a ditch. Unfortunately, despite looking for the lowest points on the ground, the sameness of the forest and the obscuring branches above caused them to wander in circles for what remained of the day. As daylight turned to dusk, they settled for finding a reasonably hidden spot to bed down for the night. How are we doing the watches here? Asked Chara. 3 characters, each need to sleep 8 hours, and Raw only allows you a maximum 2-hour interruption. Yeah, good question, said Verity. What's the plan, Entropy? Ready for it? Entropy asked. Okay, let's say Tayra takes the first watch, so she can stay awake for the first 4 hours. Sleep 4, wake up 2, sleep 4 more, and wake for the day. That means she's finished sleeping at the 14th hour. Excuse me. Now we need to cover hours 5 through 8, and 11 through 14. If Shauna sleeps 4 hours, wakes up 2, and sleeps 4 more, she'll be finished after 10 hours, so she can cover 11 through 14. That covers hours 5 and 6, and leaves us with 7 and 8. Sarika can sleep 6 hours, wake up 2, and sleep 2, also finishing after 10 hours. That covers hours 7 and 8, and gives us our 8-hour rest. 14 hours, Verity exclaimed. That's most of the day. I know it sounds horribly leisurely, but a travel day is supposed to be 8 hours, Entropy said. That actually gives us 2 extra hours to play with. Setting up and breaking camp could fit into that, so it's not really a problem. Oh, well, okay then. Fair enough. I guess that's what we're doing. And that was what the party did. 6 p.m. seems like a good time to start that rest cycle, Entropy decided. So 14 hours later would be 8 a.m. If we block off an hour for breaking camp, 8 hours of travel would be finished at 5 p.m., which would let us start the next rest cycle at 6 p.m. again. Sorry, had a random thought. Here's our big travel blog. Okay. random thought, if alarm is, like, you know, what is it? You can set it for 8 hours and everything. You put it around your area for however much area it covers. Does that also extend up, or is that only outward? You know, like if somebody were to fly over the alarm spell, would that just not trigger it? I don't actually know. Like how far up does it go if it does go up, and if it doesn't, then whoa. Anyway, we're just talking about camping, so that's what got in my head. I think I'm coming around to that schedule, Verity admitted. That actually sounds reasonable. And I suppose we'd better use the survival skill, Chara said. Don't want to push our luck with the rations. How much are we healing, Verity asked. Raw for 3.5 is 1 HP per level after 8 hours of rest, Entropy said, which would just be 1 HP for us. What about the weather, Verity? Chara asked. Yeah, can't forget that, said Verity. I'm thinking this is a cold climate, so dice say cold snap. Ouch. You had to ask, said Entropy. Well, maybe that's not so bad, said Chara. We all made the objectively correct decision to start with explorers' outfits. True. Yeah, we were prepared, said Verity. I don't think we need to worry about it. Let's get started. Breaking camp. Oh, my water's done. Hey. Breaking camp. The party resumed their search. Oh, goodness. My apologies. I have successfully not spilled hot boiling water on my leg again. We're doing well, boys. Okay. Breaking camp, the party resumed their search for some sort of path to follow. Though it slowed their progress, Shauna took the time to hunt and forage, and was able to keep the group victuated. I've never seen that word. That's great. That's a great. Oh, you literally say it here. Okay, hold on. For the day. That's a great word, said Entropy. Victual? Pronounced victual? Rhymes with little? As a verb, it means to supply with food. Victual can also be used as a noun, typically used in its plural form of victuals, simply meaning food, but generally in the context of logistical terminology. It's nerdy as hell, Chara said. Can't we just say fed? No, said Entropy. Victual. Really? Really? Ah, archaic. Understood. That's why. I see. My apologies. I don't know my archaic terms. That's why. 20-foot radius emanation, I guess. Only 2 hours per level in 3.5, and Soraka doesn't have it, though. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just... Yeah, emanation, I guess. Yeah, 20-foot radius. Okay, so radius is... the radius of a sphere is still into the sky, so it's 20 feet up then as well, technically. Anyway. Cool. Fresh from the night's rest, the party at last located a flowing stream in the first hour of their journey. Following this, they journeyed on for several more uneventful hours before setting camp again for the night near a small lake. Same program, Entropy said. Might as well let it run until something happens. The next morning, as Tayra had begun the last half of her sleep, and Sarika sat watch, Shauna set out to hunt for breakfast. Though still cold, the weather had improved from the previous day. The Beverly Hillbillies said it a lot. Never watched it. Never knew, never looked at it. Dunno. But okay, I trust. As Shauna checked the fishing lines she had left out, she found a small, scaled creature with the overall appearance of a female humanoid waiting for her. Fishing hooks dangling from the lines from her hand, looking none too pleased. Ooh. Are these yours? The Nixie asked. Nixie? Before Shauna could say anything. They are, Shauna said, and now I'm gonna have to set them all up again. Thanks for that. I suppose you think it's funny sticking those worms on there like that and throwing them out into in the water. What if a fish tried to swallow one of them? That's the point. What? You're trying to get a fish stuck on there? That's a horrible joke. It's not a... Shauna was interrupted by the feeling of some magical force invading her mind. Briefly, she thought the Nixie might have been right, and maybe leaving those lines out really was a mean trick. But just as quickly, she recognized the mental manipulation for what it was, and forced it away. Immediately, the halfling lunged for a grab, but the Nixie dodged away and ran back to the water. Give those back, Shauna shouted after her. Stay away from my lake, the Nixie shouted back before disappearing under the surface. Oh good, you lost our fish hooks, Verity said. Nice one, Chara, said Entropy. Yeah, well, look who just got enough XP to level, Chara retorted. You're leveling from that? Asked Verity. It was an encounter, Chara said. I get XP for not getting stuck on work detail under charm for the rest of the day. True. The rest of the morning passed uneventfully until Tara woke up. Shauna was able to procure enough food to start the day despite the loss of the fish hooks, and Tara was able to cook a decent meal from the forage the halfling brought back. After breaking camp, the party set off once more, circling the lake at a careful distance. Eventually circling the lake, at a careful distance. Eventually led to its outflow, a much larger stream than what they had been following before, though still not a river. After about an hour of travel, a cacophony of growling and barking from behind caught their attention. Behind them, 2 goblins rode in pursuit on the backs of a pair of large, dark-furred dogs, with a hobgoblin warrior accompanying on foot. Oh. Before anyone could react, one of the goblins chanted a wicked-sounding prayer. A brief aura of darkness flashed around the goblinoids and their mounts. Shauna reacted to this first, moving to put herself in front of Sarika, as she drew and readied her Morningstar and shield. The second goblin rode forth and cast its javelin at Tara, but the weapon merely grazed the scales of her armor. Tara moved next to Shauna to complete Sarika's cover and shot an arrow which struck true and dropped the incoming goblin warrior. Sarika was next to act, sending a bolt of magic streaking for the goblin spellcaster, striking the target painfully in the chest. The hobgoblin at last came forth and cast his javelin, but Shauna easily batted it aside with her shield. Already thinking better of this fight, the goblin adept wheeled its mount around and rode away at full speed. Shauna and Tara both stood at the ready now, remaining in full defensive posture, waiting to see what the remaining enemies would do. The fallen goblin's dog, having been roused to full aggression, charged for Tara, but a sweep of the human's hook-bladed polearm tripped the dog up and knocked it prone. And another strike raked a bloody line through the animal's flesh. Sarika then threw another magical bolt out, this one striking the dog as well. Excuse me. The hobgoblin now charged with its long sword for Shauna, in a rage, though its path took it through the range of Tara's polearm. Unfortunately, Tara's next swing lacked with the strength to knock the goblin down, though she was able to withstand its attempt to knock her down in turn. Undeterred, the hobgoblin pressed its attack against Shauna, but the halfling defended herself successfully. Old historians also used Vytheville a lot, and we've read a lot of them. That is fair. I am not familiar, is all. But it's a cool little word. Excuse me while I pull my tea bags out of the tea. And move them away from me so that I do not get hurt by them. There we are. Okay. Recognizing the hobgoblin's battle frenzy, Shauna honored this by working up her own rage and pressing the attack with her Morningstar, landing a few solid blows. The riding dog, meanwhile, clambered to its feet again, and Tara was unable to keep it down. The dog then lunged for the human. My apologies if you can hear the dinging of my mug. The dog then lunged for the human, but Tara fended it off with the haft of her polearm. Tara stepped away from the dog while motioning for Sarika to fall back, then swung with the guy's arm blade at the animal, though unfortunately failed to land a hit. Taking the signal, Sarika hurried back 30 feet, then turned and shot off one more magic missile at the dog, wounding it further. The hobgoblin came at Shauna once more with a series of brutish swings, but Shauna blocked all of them easily with her shield, then laid into the foe once more, landing a hard bash, against his ribs. The dog, having had enough at this point, spun and ran away. Letting the animal go, Teyra turned her attention to the hobgoblin and tried to simply distract it with a series of jabs, though the enemy fended these off too easily for them to have an effect. Sarika decided to expend the last of her arcane power to fire one more magical bolt at the hobgoblin, scoring superficial, damage that nevertheless weakened the enemy that much further. Aware that it was by itself now, but continuing to fight by the power of rage alone, the hobgoblin attacked Shauna once again. The goblinoid's relentless assault at last found an opening, forcing its way through the halfling's defenses, and slashing... Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. And slashing the blade into flesh. Shauna still stood, however, and this aggressive attack left the hobgoblin open to retaliation. With a swing of her Morningstar, Shauna bashed the hobgoblin's head, dropping it to its knees. Roaring in triumphant fury, Shauna threw one more swing that smashed the hobgoblin's skull to pulp. With the hobgoblin dispatched and the remaining enemies in full flight, Teyra finished off the fallen goblin warrior with a downward swing of her guy's arm. Shauna gathered the hobgoblin's long sword and javelin and also agreed to carry the smaller Morningstar and javelin from the goblin corpse. That all settled, the party quickly made their way out of the area. From there, the day again proceeded uneventfully. Excuse me. As did the following night. And now we both get to level up too, said Entropy. Which means I can finally give Sarika her cleric level and start healing you guys. Verity beamed. The next day's travel finally led the party to a river of respectable size. As they followed it, a walled town came into sight at about midday. And that's good enough, said Verity. End of session. Cool. Thank you. Oh. There you go. Thank you for the comments. Appreciate it. Cool, we'll try to find more words you don't know. Hey, do it. Make my brain maybe remember them someday. The dice also like to give us a lot of minimum damage, but there's not much to be done about that. True. True. Alright, well, that's all the comments, so thank you very much for all of the comments, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you continue to leave them. And that means it's time for me to do the ending spiel. The bit where most people have already gone away because it happens that way. People just stop watching at some points. And yeah. Time to tell you about things. So, thank you goes out to our lovely, lovely table flippers, those of you on the Patreon that you can join if you wish to. There's also the Ko-fi, where you can become a table flipper, getting the exact same kind of things that the patrons do. So, yeah, I mean, go over there or go over here. It's up to you, but this is a big thank you that goes out to Draco Kraken, Rick, aka Unit Rico, and Steely for being up at those tier 4s. Hope you've been enjoying all of the content and such. There's been a couple of you who've been at the editing streams. So yeah, thank you. And I hope you've been enjoying looking at the vampire episodes way earlier than anybody else. It's been pretty good going for them. We didn't get to do one today. I wish we had, but some stuff has come up as well. So it happens. Anyway, a thank you goes out to Crimson Rose at the tier 2. Thank you. Hope you've been enjoying all the stuff, if you've taken a look at any of it. Then, of course, a thank you to our tier 1 contributors. Appreciate you all. Hope you continue to enjoy what we do, and we're worth your dollars / whatever, euros, I don't know. Anyway, join it if you wish. Link in the description to go over to the Patreon or the Ko-fi. Or just search the TableTalk crew, I think. I've changed it. Did I change it to TableTalk crew here? Did I change it to the TableTalk crew here? No, I did not. TableTalk Discussion and Discourse. That was something I was going to do, was change it to the TableTalk crew, because we do more than just the one show. And you are supporting more than just the one show, for sure. Anyway, going over to TeePublic, you can you can buy whatever you want through there to get logos and such, if you wish. Do it if you want. Go for it. I don't know. Going over to our website, you can go over to the Support Us page to look at the things that I've talked about and also will talk about, and our custom dice, if you wish to buy a set, go for it. Last but not least, of course, you can go over to Humble Bundle using the link in our description to support us, as well as Tabletop Alliance, who's also linked in the description, to find out about what they do to promote their charity works with tabletop means. And right now, we've got some Deathwatch and Rogue Trader for Warhammer 40k. Those are 2 systems in that bundle. Pathfinder Bundle of the Dead. There you go. 2nd edition bundle of the Dead by Paizo. That's a couple of cool tabletop stuff. You got some Black Library things there still. 13 days. These are pretty new. That's awesome. All right. But yeah, bunch of stuff there. Bunch of stuff in the store. Bunch of stuff for the choice bundle. Use our link in the description and you get to support us and Tabletop Alliance when you buy anything through any means on Humble Bundle. Please do if you wish to, and if you don't, well, hope you enjoy Humble Bundle, because it's a great site, regardless. Yeah, I guess, other than that, like, subscribe, leave comments, those are helpful. Tell other people about the show, very helpful. We've grown to be over 700 subscribers now, which is kind of crazy. I was for certain, or I was very sure that we were going to only have 700 and then go down, because that's usually how it goes, but we've gone up, so thank you. And we hope you continue to enjoy, of course. Soon enough, we're going to be starting a couple of new games for the Digital Distractions. At the end of the month, we're having the Vampire campaign coming. How long until... I'm sorry, not the end of the month, the beginning of next month, first off. Second off, how long until that day comes? Okay. I think what I'll do is post that video maybe tomorrow, or maybe Wednesday, now that it is technically Sunday, about the actual play podcast part that is audio only, as well as just promoting the new Vampire campaign, because that's coming soon, so get excited. How can we get Alejo to remember Vittles? I don't know, Skittles or Vittles. No, I'm now looking at it. I'll probably forget it at least 3 more times. But I'll try to remember Vittles. Skittles technically are Vittles, but they're not good for you. Technically, good Vittles. Anyway. I guess, yeah, that's it. Thank you for hanging out with me. Apologies that the other 2 were not able to make it. But hopefully we all had some insight and some discussion that was at least somewhat useful. to the topics at hand. And if you've made it this far and you're new, thank you. And if you're returning, of course, I know those of you who have returned, thank you as well. I guess we'll see you next week or sooner if you're part of the table flippers. I'll see you tomorrow for editing, because I'm gonna be doing more editing. I have so much to edit, actually. Still, I continue to add to my pile, so I'm gonna be doing those for a long time. Anyway, goodbye. See you later. Enjoy the rest of your week, day, night, afternoon, daylight savings time. I don't know. Who knows when you're watching this in the future, potentially. Enjoy it in your past, even. Who knows? All right, goodbye.